Welcome to the Combat Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Peacock. If you aren't already, please go to combatlearning.com/newsletter to get my Intro to Motor Learning for Martial Arts PDF so that you can get up to speed on the powerful concepts we're discussing in the show. Plus, you'll never miss an episode. combatlearning.com/newsletter. Oh, and just to give you a little extra, if you sign up, I'll also give you my representative learning design cheat sheet to transform your exercises into rapid skill building machines. That's combatlearning.com/newsletter. Today, I'm joined again by one of my best friends, Master Thomas Huskey, a fourth Dan in Taekwondo, and a fairly accomplished Olympic TKD coach in his own right. In this episode, Thomas and I begin by explaining in detail why martial artists outside of Taekwondo are wrong in their criticisms of it. Then we transition our ire inward towards the Taekwondo community itself and why it is also wrong about its own criticisms of the Olympic style. Please be forewarned, this was immediately following a lot of drama after the Summer Olympics last year. Our tone is generally very condescending and bombastic, but we don't mean to upset people who have made these criticisms before. In reality, our tone was in direct response to a few individuals who decided they were going to be both obnoxious and unfair in how they responded to some significant victories for Team USA in the Olympics at that time. So full disclosure, we were agitated at the time of this recording. So if that's cool with you, if you're excited to jump in, hit the subscribe button on your podcatcher and enjoy the show. This is a special episode for the occasion of Olympic Taekwondo. And Olympic Taekwondo, for whatever reason, among the combat sports in the Olympics, has found some chatter in some groups, very negative chatter from people who we believe are don't really, they haven't experienced it. So they
feel like you're trying to be politically correct right now.
But I'm trying to draw them in.
Yeah,
and then
that's what I feel.
And then I'm going to injure them as deeply as possible.
Well, I really think that's probably one of the reasons why I'm here. I know you like to call me for like because I give it to them straight. I need the controversial, stuff that's said. And to be honest with you, a lot of people say things, about Taekwondo, and me to be such a proponent of Taekwondo. I'm the first person that when somebody says something that is true of Taekwondo, that is, I guess you could say, negative of Taekwondo, I'm the first to own it, right?
Right.
So I feel like, and not only that, I've been there, done that on levels that when people are like, e-ninja-ing or e-thugging about Twitter fingers about, that I've actually been there on that level and speak from an experience of being there on that level, having athletes on that level, and then also from the experience of having literally been in the military and been in fights before, and yes, a tornado kick won't work. The little nuances that people talk about when it comes to that. Yeah. And I understand I'm in a unique position that just some people just don't have.
Right. Yeah, and then a lot of people, there's a lot of things going on. The first thing is that people, it's not their fault that they don't have access to a high-level Olympic fighter. I don't really, other than you.
Sure.
You're basically my North Star when it comes to figuring out what's in vogue right now.
And tell you the truth, I've trained and coached people even higher level than me. Right. I did very, very decently. I did good, right?
Yeah.
But even beyond that, I have access or can literally talk to somebody quite literally who just left the Olympics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I would be talking to him next week.
Yeah.
And not even about the Olympics, just
I heard you on
stuff
the phone
about
with him last,
you know what I mean?
2 weeks ago.
We're I'm gonna be talking to him next week about some stuff. So just having access and knowing people like that really know what they're talking about, that are high level at the game, and then even being in the building at G1, G2 level events.
Yeah.
That just it racks my it just and we'll get into it.
And you sparred with them.
Right.
So you haven't just coached them, you've actually sparred with them. Yes.
And it racks my nerve when somebody says something about Taekwondo and it's really just false. Like you just really don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And we'll get into it, I'm sure. I'm sure you have questions. You'll bring some stuff up.
I do. So before I want to say what we're actually not, because you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I want to say what we're not trying to say about Taekwondo, because when the main litmus not litmus, but like the catalyst for this episode is to very definitively address something that keeps coming up. But there's a specific instance over the last 2 days where a forum that's kind of popular about practical martial arts, more like self-defense, combatives based, but very, very combat sports friendly. There's been more than one post in there trying to take cracks at Olympic Taekwondo, and most of the criticisms are true, but there's a few things that people say that are very much outside of their realm of experience that is objectively untrue. So we're not trying to say that Olympic Taekwondo is realistic.
Right. Or even...
It has some helpful skills, we'd say, but it's not realistic. Sure. We also, unlike our disingenuous detractors, would not say that Olympic Taekwondo in the 90s was realistic either.
Right. But I think that people have a false sense of what is really, like, if you even want to take Taekwondo out of it for a second, but just a false sense of what like martial arts is like in general.
Right. Yeah.
Like if you really want to be real, a lot of people in any martial art are not practicing it in a way to where it's realistic. Like you're not pressurized realistically.
Yeah.
You're not
absolutely
like it. And for people who've literally been in a self-defense situation where someone's trying to take your head off, like just the speed of somebody who isn't even trained throwing a haymaker at you is the dynamics is just totally different. And you think this a middle block with a guardian, you think crap like that's going to work, and then you think about like MMA or UFC or the things that have been polarizing like in the media to you, and then you automatically see something like Taekwondo, and then you automatically try to say, well, that wouldn't work in the UFC, and it's not even about that. Yeah. Right. It's not. Yeah. It's not about. And I get so many people on my YouTube channel all the time. I say so many people, but like it's really just a few comments. But I get people enough weekly. Somebody will post and say something about how the blocking in Taekwondo video that I put up, like, oh, I dare you to do this in MMA. It's literally specifically for sport Taekwondo. Yeah. And then even if I'm honest with you, if I did self-defense fight somebody on the street just because I'm competent in that arena as well, I'm not holding my hands up by my face like a boxer and shelling and stuff either. I do actually have my hands like kind of low, and me personally, that is something that has worked for me in that arena as well. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't, like if you hold, first of all, people's fists are too small for you to hold this here and to actually protect yourself. And when somebody who's punching at you actually makes contact and crashes in, that's crashing into your head. It's not absorbing that force effectively at all. It might actually make it worse.
But people don't understand why.
They don't understand. You can cover, like if you're going to do that, you need to actually cover your head, but you can't carry a fighting stance that way.
Well, people, again, are polarized by mainstream things like the UFC and boxing, and do not understand that the only reason why a boxer shells like that when someone is throwing the punches, because they have gloves there, which underneath they have wrapping, which widens the surface area or blocking area for them to be able to shut up and block, and things not actually get through. You do this in a real fight, like with, just your bare hands, and me, I kind of pride myself on being I'm going straight through that guard and popping you. Like I've done it on so many occasions with people who aren't trained, but they have that what do you call it? Like that unconsciousness that kind of kicks in of what they saw like on their favorite martial arts TV show or movie, and they do it automatically without thinking about it. And then I pop them and they're like, why didn't this work? Well, that's because you don't understand why a boxer would hold their guard like that, giving the apparatuses that they're using for their sport. And to kind of take that and translate it into Taekwondo, that's what people do with Taekwondo all the time. They try to take something from Taekwondo that is specific and unique to Taekwondo and apply it in a situation it was never meant to be applied to.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's absolutely the case. So we're not saying it's realistic, but in many ways, boxing might transfer more easily than much of Taekwondo, but boxing isn't really either. And we're also not saying that you can't dislike it on aesthetic grounds. I have never it sometimes rubs me the wrong way, but I rarely get offended when someone says, you know what, I just liked the dynamic power style of Taekwondo better. Cool. Like, I really liked it too. But when you say something objectively false, this is where we have a problem, because now not only are you incorrect, you're denigrating the skill and the accomplishment and the ability of real athletes who
work tirelessly to get to something like the Olympics.
And they're doing something on a level that you, as a person watching,
will no clue.
You'll never
have no clue about what it takes and a type of skill level to get there. And one like this, let's just dive into something, right? Foot fencing. Right? Let's just dive into it. I actually think that is a funny as hell term. Like, if I'm being honest, like foot fencing and like thinking about how fencing actually is, and then the pitter patter of the foot and then the sword,
highly skilled,
the play on, like
very crafty.
Like, I think that's funny. Right? But I also, when it's used in a negative connotation, it also is one of the things in present day Taekwondo that rubs me the wrong way, or I feel some type of way about, or get angry about so much, because yes, people do clash with the legs a lot, and there's like this new hooking thing that's going on to where legs are like locking, and then they're having the Kalyo, you know, break the matchup and whatnot. However, and just to kind of go back for a second, which kind of ties into what I'm saying, a lot of people that bag or are looking at Taekwondo as a spectator sport that don't know what's going on, which is everything, right? Understanding, when you don't understand something, it looks foreign to you. You're wondering why people aren't getting more points, and it looks like people are just open like all the time. And I saw one thing. It looks slow. I saw one thing on this forum. Dude's like, man, this guy was so open to back kicks, and I'm like, yeah. You think he was open to back kicks, but when I explain the rules and how Taekwondo works to someone, almost all the time, someone is more understanding. Or 1 second, I want to make sure this is still on.
It's still recording.
Yeah, I probably should just kind of touch it every now and then.
There you go.
Yeah, I think we're. Yeah, I'm still on. I don't want to touch it every now and then just to make sure it's still recording. However, when people, 9 times out of 10, when I explain the rule sets and things to people and the little intricacies and stuff, and you understand the game better, they have, I don't want to say necessarily a better appreciation for it, but they're able to watch it better as a spectator sport and really understand the nuances of it. Now, to tie this into foot fencing, when I was talking about, most people, especially if you don't fight at that level, and I hate when people tell me that they fight, and I spar people, and I go to a gym, when you're at a place where you couldn't even hold a candle at a state championships, which is like the bare bones minimum in like at least the United States about Taekwondo competition, where referees do not even judge properly and will call gamjungs for somebody trying to cancel. Like when people are doing it at the Olympics, like you really don't know. And if you don't understand the intricacies of what's going on when somebody's foot is up, as far as canceling, the different types of ways you can cancel, the strategy of the game to lift the leg in that certain manner, just so somebody else doesn't get the point, but doing it in a way so it doesn't look like it's impeding the other leg. Like, not like at this point, I'm not talking about a cancel, but I'm talking about literally doing a technique to impede the other leg, which is illegal, but making it look like it's not. So if you don't understand like what's going on there,
there's actually a high level strategy.
Right. You will not be able to look at it and think that is something that is better, especially as far as a spectator sport, from what used to go on. So people like to talk about like the early 90s and stuff, but really even as early as 2008, at the Beijing Olympic Games, right? Yeah. People were notabonding and turning and doing more what people would call dynamic techniques. But if I have to be honest with you, just from someone who is there and spars and trains and coaches these guys, it's much more intricate.
Yeah.
It is much more intricate what they're doing. You just don't understand what's going on. Absolutely. The cancel is such an intricate technique. And that little bump that you see of legs, so much is going on there. Yeah. And I'm talking about like bumping and putting the leg back down. Then you have bumping and trying to get around it and not putting the leg back down and getting around it and underneath it and then over it in different ways so the person doesn't know on the other end like what's going on. Like if you don't understand the intricacies of what's going on in that way with anything, I can't tell you how many people like will look at, think about, I don't want to say early UFC, but UFC when like Dana White bought it for $300 and was trying to bring it back. right. If you think about UFC around that time frame with the people like Iceman, right? And you think about people like, you know, early Vitor Belfort and things of that nature, you would literally hear crowds booing when they were on the ground for prolonged periods of time. Absolutely. And that's because people did not know crap about the intricacies of jiu-jitsu and saw that these people, like this dude that's on top of this dude and this dude that has this dude in full guard, they're actually working on little minute intricacies to open the person up to be able to transition from what seems like a Kimura to an armbar when the person goes for, or when somebody's trying to do like, let's say a sweep and a person tries to stop the sweep from the guard position and it turns it into a triangle choke. Yeah. Like if you don't understand those intricacies and to be honest with you, the intricacies of jiu-jitsu are even more minute because it just looks like you're wrist wrestling, right?
It's boring to. It's
if
not
you don't
like
know
wrestling.
What's going on, it could be crazy boring. And people will talk about Taekwondo, the sport of Taekwondo, and how it's boring and stuff as a spectator sport. Let's just be honest. It's boring because you don't know what's going on. How about actually learn the rule sets, right? Especially if you're going to watch it. If you're actually going to take the time to thumb through and click the Olympics and have it on and everything, like if you're going to take the time to at least try to understand the rules and what's going on and some of the nuances of it. So when a match ends 2-3, and you wonder why so many points. Like I literally saw something on the forum about they was like, I saw this person and they at least got 20 points. Like, no, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't. Now, high percentage scoring in Taekwondo happens more now than it ever does.
Yeah.
But that particular match that they were talking about, which I watched like almost every fight in the Olympics, you know, so, you know, waiting for people that I, you know, to be honest with you, actually know that were coming up to either fight or coach. There just wasn't so many points. Like, no, you couldn't just get a back kick on him and spin a hook kick. Yeah. And what was crazy is this particular person was talking about how he didn't just name back kicks. He's like, man, they were so open to like spinning hook kicks and back kicks and things. You know how low percentage scoring those techniques are? And matter of fact, do you know how us Taekwondo coaches even train athletes to where 90% of things that come up to your head level are missed just because the type of way that you have your hand out in our stance?
Yeah.
And my foot, like there's no way that a spinning hook kick could even get to me.
No, yeah.
Which is why you didn't see, but like
there's
one notable one from
craft
Lauren.
going on.
Right.
There's craft going on where you're creating optical illusions with your stance and you're manipulating distance in a skilled way to where, it doesn't look like tight kickboxing, but within the rule set, which is unique, Taekwondo is allowed to have its own rule set. Okay? Sorry, guys.
100%.
Sorry. Not everything has to be kickboxing. That would be boring.
Or MMA. Or jiu-jitsu.
Or jiu-jitsu. It's its own rule set, and there's a highly skilled manipulation of space going on inside of that match. Now, you mentioned something that was really interesting. You talked about other people looking in on MMA and striking. That still happens, but you even now with in jiu-jitsu, you have this very silly, aesthetically silly-looking double guard pull, 50-50 guard. It's boring. Nobody except for jiu-jitsu people like to watch it. And even skilled wrestlers who are skilled grapplers look at that and scoff. But wrestlers are still getting kicked and killed by it when they enter these competitions. Maybe not quite as easily as jiu-jitsu people, because wrestlers have different ways of that they move. Sometimes they can be more explosive, but they're a little harder to handle sometimes, and they have better takedowns too.
Definitely. I've seen a lot of
but they still get killed by it.
Rabbit hole jiu-jitsu versus grappler wrestler. And, you know, they all talk about, like, afterwards, you know, they talk about, you know, what the other person got them with and why it worked and blah, blah, blah. I've just seen a lot of stuff like that. And then also me, like, Taekwondo people aren't monolithic either. People like me and him both like have trained and do currently train in like jiu-jitsu and other arts and stuff besides Taekwondo. And then we also are just very highly knowledgeable about freaking Taekwondo as well. Like we just
everything.
Yeah, we just know stuff, right? Well, I take that back. We don't just know stuff. All the things that we are saying are quite literally readily available for you to do your own research on in regards to motor learning, perception in action, exercise science, sports science. Like all these things are available for anyone. So the things that we are saying and will say here are like we're not making this stuff up. Like as much as I would love to say that, yes, I made up like the cancel and the intricacies and stuff you see in Taekwondo, so I definitely know what I'm talking about. I didn't make this stuff up. I learned it. I researched it. I took it upon myself to kind of, you know, gain this knowledge and then apply it in an actual athletic or coaching setting, and then see like what works and bounce it off the wall. And I trashed what didn't, and I kept what did. Like it's really just that simple.
Yeah. And the people don't really spar skilled Olympic fighters. They spar kids that did it 10 years ago.
Or they even themselves did it 10 years ago.
They never did. So, guys, this is not a cope. People are rolling their eyes and saying, oh, it's the no true Scotsman fallacy. You have to fight an Olympian. You don't have to fight an Olympian. But here's the thing about the Taekwondo competition circuit. It's not like the jiu-jitsu circuit. The only people that are really good are the people that get up to a national level because everyone else trains in a schizophrenic training culture within Taekwondo where you do mostly the traditional stuff that has nothing to do with Olympic sparring. Even though it's technically the same style, they basically do a totally different Taekwondo. And then you have a very tiny select few that stick with Olympic sparring as a competition rule set long enough that they actually get very, very skilled at it.
And I call those people that, you know, you're referring to scrubs.
Scrubs, yeah.
Like to me, and sure, I use the you know, kind of what would you say? I use it negatively, right? I use it negatively in the way to talk about people who haven't been there, done that, which to me, honestly, it's okay if you haven't been there, done that. Yeah. It's really the people that are sparring in their dojons against like other kids that aren't getting credible or quality coaching in Olympic type sparring to where they could even do anything outside of an inter-school tournament and whatnot. And quite frankly, coaches who do not teach it in a way to where they would even want to take their kids to something like that get destroyed down by a Taekwondo school down the street, and the parents, the fear of parents of jumping ship, right? And going to something that they feel is more credible. Those are the people that I call scrubs. Like, no, trust me, I know what I'm talking about, dude. I sparred last week at my Taekwondo school, and I've been to the state championships, and I got bronze. Like, dude, if you're going to a state championships, especially in a rural area or a rural state that's not like a heavy hitter state, like, dude, if you live in Wyoming and you go to the state championships of Wyoming, you get a gold medal. That's not really saying anything, bro. Yeah. Sorry, but it just honestly speaking, like places that I've been, things that I've seen, people that I've sparred, it's like,
and this applies to anything, right? There's areas where boxing is not good, and jiu-jitsu competition is not good.
You hit the nail on the head.
It's just totally normal. It's not a cope.
But you hit the nail on the head just now. But I think the reason why we're having this discussion is because people segment Taekwondo specifically and put it in a box as if
that was the specific chart.
Everything is like that. Why is Taekwondo segmented and bagged on so much for being just like every other martial art?
Right.
Nothing is complete. Nothing is totally sensible in an actual realistic, pressuristic situation fight. Yeah. Even MMA has rules, right? That
weird rules. You can't elbow to the base of the spine.
And you have and if you fight with your fingers open, you have to have them pointed up at all times.
Yeah,
like little stupid stuff like that. Yeah. Like that doesn't fly in the street. You can have your fingers and hands.
If a person has two knees and one arm down, there's certain strikes you can't throw anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm not saying MMA, like somebody who does MMA is not realistic. Like they can't handle themselves in a real fight. I think those skills probably transfer some of the best of anything.
And this is the thing, because when we talk about stuff like this, we quite literally have to break it down. And I'm not saying this in a way that's like, oh, your listeners are stupid or anything. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I feel, especially in this particular episode, with so many people who are even involved in Taekwondo that don't know anything about Taekwondo, you have to break it down in a way that's palatable. Like we're not saying that it doesn't like transfer, better or worse or skills or whatever case may be. All we are saying is that Taekwondo is the same in regards to rule sets that condition you to fight, right, a certain type of way that are not necessarily usable or best to use in an actual self-defense situation or confrontation, which everybody always wants to compare a martial art to. And if I'm quite honest with you, a lot of the self-defense principles and practices that I know today, right, that I've actually used before, like so many, like again, E-thugs, right? Like that I've actually used before on the street in self-defense confrontation, I actually learned from Taekwondo. Right? And the things that I got from the sports side of Taekwondo, which is depth perception, speed, timing, things of that nature that are objectively and unambiguously transferred over to a situation like that, like forget a cancel or a flop or however you want to put it, just training that in a way to where I'm trying to use it to where it works in that type of setting. Translates to me using my jab, even though I don't have a boxer's jab, in a way to where I can kind of see timing and depth perception and slide back and move out the way. Like everything has these things that don't seemingly transfer when you look at it for the basis of the technique or the rule set itself.
Right. There's actually an excellent example of it. And I got the book right here. Jack Dempsey.
Books, man. Who's that on the front?
Jack Dempsey.
Yeah, but that's Muhammad Ali on the front.
Nah, dude, you're blind. It's a white guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm blind, man.
He was at a weird angle, you know, shadows.
It was. Give me some credit.
Technical stuff, smart people things you all wouldn't understand. So in this book, Jack Dempsey, this is at a transition period in the meta, like the same thing that happened with Taekwondo, right? This is a transition period in the meta of boxing where Jack Dempsey comes from like his whole style is about using momentum and different principles to almost throw power punches at every single punch. His thing is high octane, and he's lamenting the introduction of a more tactically and strategically sophisticated boxing that everyone now is cool with. It's just conventional wisdom. But the intricate jab game where you dance around and you throw jabs and this and this and that, and you use your jabs for entry and all that kind of stuff, boxing didn't used to be based around that. It used to be based more around power shots. Now you pick your power shots. You know, Floyd Mayweather Jr., arguably greatest boxer in the modern era, his whole thing is around winning on points.
Right.
He doesn't really throw knockouts.
Very few knockouts throughout.
But how many people level the same criticism at him that they would at a Taekwondo athlete?
Well, he gets a lot of criticism.
I know he does, but how many of these people who are like in the, you know, where it's cool to be like, yeah, I got to respect Floyd Mayweather and.
Oh no! Well. So he definitely gets a lot of criticism. But I understand what you're saying in regards to like people don't like him, but they respect him because of his abilities.
Yeah.
Whereas Taekwondo people are like highly trained athletes themselves in their own right, but they still get bagged on like they're just like a school level, local dojang level, you know, person who's you know just happened to made it to the Olympics. Mm-hmm. Now, granted. There's some people that just happen to make it to the Olympics, you know, that I know, like, you know, for real, that used to, I don't know, like, let's say fight for the United States as like a junior or something like that.
Yeah.
But they're like great grandmother, because of the rules of the Olympics or whatever, is Haitian. So they're able to claim like, you know, Haitian descent and then fight for, you know, a country like Haiti or Mali or, you know, the Coast of Ivory or something like that, or Ghana or something like that, and actually, you know, make it to the Olympics off of that. So, you know, sure, there's some of that that's happening. However, more often than not, these athletes are well trained. They have been training for quite an extensive, long period of time, and they made it to where they are because they're, you know, they're seeded.
Skilled, yeah.
Yeah, they're seeded. They're like
so
ranked fighters.
Floyd Mayweather does not throw knockout punches.
Right.
His tactics are otherworldly good, though.
Yeah, 100%.
So he does not throw. So so what I'm trying to do. So I'm making two arguments right now.
You got to tell them what you're doing.
And I'm worried.
I'm getting it.
You're getting it.
You got to tell these people.
This is my problem, is that I'm always arguing.
You got to tell these people
to handle multiple fronts at the same time, and then once I get to it, it goes over the head.
Right.
So y'all are too dumb to understand right now. Let me try and help you understand what I'm trying to say. I'm drawing a parallel between what people would call the de-evolution of power and whatever in Taekwondo to the change in strategy and tactics inside of boxing. Now, Floyd Mayweather might not be able to throw knockout power punches as much as any other boxers might, but he certainly throws punches enough that people can't bowl him over.
Right.
Okay? So there is a threshold.
They're literally scared on entry.
Right. So it's not, is it weaker? Technically, yes, it is weaker. But the other tactics make up for it, right? And people understand that's how boxing is played. And while they might not personally like his style, they can't, under those rule sets, they can't contest his skill level.
Right, and then the rule sets.
Now, shift it to Taekwondo. Are people always throwing with the same amount of power that they did in the dynamic days, as often as they used to try and score and get the trembling shock and all that kind of stuff? No. So not usually. We'll get to that in a second.
Okay, yeah.
We'll get to that because there's more.
We'll get to that because I disagree.
There's actually a mechanical evolution that happened that people that don't know Taekwondo, people inside of Taekwondo don't know about. Right. ITFers don't even know this stuff, right? Because I hear people talk about ITF because it's supposed to be the better one. It's not. But table that. But
and I like ITF, but it's not the better one.
No, not even close. So what's going on here? What I'm saying is. The power, in some cases at least, is technically lesser, but the intricacy of the tactics and the strategy has made it no less skilled. So the same sort of evolution has happened within Taekwondo that has happened in many ways within boxing, and that's the meta shifts the behavior within the rule set or the competition modality. So to your point, people are saying things that I think are objectively untrue and that I know they do not have firsthand experience with. There's a reason why that we'll get to in a second, but they say that they are slower.
You need to write some of this down and make sure we get to it. We're saying we'll get to it, but we don't have no, because I say that because I really want to get to both of the points you just mentioned about slower the technical power and slower power. I definitely want to touch and hit on that. Yeah. And I also want to touch and hit on what you, see, I already forgot.
There's also a technical evolution.
Right, yeah, right. So
I'm a professional, man. I podcast all the time.
I know, you're a way better podcaster and remember, person who can remember this stuff better than I can because you do it. But I definitely want to make sure we hit those 2 points.
I know prudence when I see it, so I'm writing it down. So we can stay. Okay, so it's objective. So I have, a long time ago, I sparred you. Mm-hmm. You were still actually up and coming in the international competition scene at that point, or even the national competition scene.
I literally,
but you tuned.
It was you tuned me up.
You tuned me up because, and at the time I had 15, 16 years of martial arts experience.
You
tuned me up because I didn't have that specific tactical knowledge.
And I got to tell you, I'm way better now than I was then.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. I think about if the you then, and probably even now, because I know that you don't have you're talking that tactical knowledge of Taekwondo, that now I probably would piece you up, Taekwondo specific, even more so than I did there, and I say that even knowing that as a martial artist, you are better. You get what I'm saying? As a martial artist, you are better than you were there. But specifically Taekwondo, I would even do worse damage now just because I'm way better than I was then. Yeah. And a lot of people are saying he's just bragging on himself or whatever. No, I'm trying to akin that to where Taekwondo has gone as far as someone who has literally traversed between what people call old school Taekwondo and literally at the tail end of my career fighting electronic new school Taekwondo. Yeah. I did quite literally both at a pretty decent level within the United States against people who are really, really, really good at both eras of Taekwondo.
Yeah, when I first met you, that era we were in a weird transition phase between the old style and the new generation of Ihogus when I first met you. Yeah,
because people probably don't even know what LaJust is.
The cut kick meta was still emerging. And I remember a conversation we had where I think you agreed with me too, that I was like, I'm never doing cut kick because that's foot fencing.
You can't.
That's the funny thing about foot fencing. Yeah. I'm going to write that.
Yeah, please write.
I want to get down to that because the foot
I know
fencing,
we briefly touched it.
Well, the foot fencing charge is actually old beef, and it has nothing to do with Olympic style. And it comes, people say it because they're criticizing a style of Taekwondo they did that has nothing to do with Olympic sparring.
Right.
But we'll get back to that. We'll come back around to that. But so as somebody, you as somebody who has trained with directly and coached people at an international level, do they kick softer?
No.
Do they kick slower?
No.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
In any case, if they kick harder than before,
yeah,
more consistently, than before.
Yeah, they land
because
consistently. Yeah.
they quite literally have no choice now but to.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, we're talking about the advent of electronic scoring. And again, for someone who fought without e-hogels and then the advent of e-hogels, like I mentioned LaJust before, LaJust was actually, just make sure
that was mine. Yeah.
LaJust actually was for the precursor to Dado. And if you ever seen those hogels that have like the little gray fronts inside,
yeah, that's
called the LaJust system.
Yeah.
And it had so many freaking problems, bro.
Yeah.
Like it had so many problems. But the reason why, if you are any type of credible athlete, right? Credible athlete who has played the game of Taekwondo, you understand 100% why we moved to electronic scoring and you would never go back. And the reason why you wouldn't go back is because literally people were getting points off of things that did not hit a valid scoring area or land, or when it hit like your hogel, or more often than not, because people were still intricate with their blocking. Like, to be honest with you, I do think old school blocking and old school in quotations, blocking and hand motion was a little better. And that's really why I'm able to survive a lot of, even at my age, and I don't really train like that with these younger guys, just because my hands are quick about moving, in those positions and whatnot. However, I can't tell you how many times I fought at a tournament and a foot will pop my forearm, and it'd be a tornado or whatever case may be. You know, they talk about the dynamics of Taekwondo, and it gives out this loud ring throughout the stadium. And this dude didn't even touch me. Yeah. This dude didn't even touch me, but the perception of power. Right? The illusion, what you just said, the illusion, the perception of power, because you heard it smack throughout the stadium, you gave him a point. Yeah. And that same perception of power, right, with the referees extends and does even to this day extend to people who think, because of what I just said, that error packed more of a punch or more power because of the sounds and things that they heard from the smack on the forearm or the hogel. But for someone who literally transitioned from that to the Dado system and the KP&P system, when I first transitioned over, like you saw people like Survey Tazgul like get point gap at the 2012 Olympics, and like arguably, like at the time, he was considered like the world's best fighter, but he gets point gap at the next Olympics because of the Daegu point system. Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you why, because someone who I felt I kicked pretty hard, pretty decently and whatnot, and to be honest with you, I was under the same illusions and impressions about power and kicking hard when we transitioned to electronic sparring. And when I tell you I was not scoring on the Dado system or the KP&P system, the Gen 1s, especially the Gen 1s when it came out, I was not scoring. And when I'm telling you, I thought I was freaking hammering these freaking hogels. I thought I was laying into them. Apparently, I wasn't doing nothing, because you can literally, like, for those of you who actually, use and know how to use and set up a Dado or KP&P system before you spar and stuff, you can actually put it on the setting and really just hammer the bag, and there's this thing that'll go up and down that'll show you the power threshold that you're hitting at. And when I'm telling you, that thing was like just getting little beads, and I thought I was, and when I'm talking about wailing on these freaking hogels and bags, and back in my era, like when we were sparring, like we didn't put them on like people were wearing these things to get actual feel for. You put your little fingers up top, right? And you lean over, or you put your hands in. Right. So we're like back leg ground kicking into the PSS system, and I am not scoring, yo. Yeah. Like I just
Yeah.
It's kind of, to be honest with you, it's kind of embarrassing to say.
So let's pause for a second.
Let's
pause for a second. Here is a human perception red pill, okay? Unless you have an objective scientific instrument that usually includes a camera of a certain quality.
How will you know, man?
And all that kind of stuff.
How will you know?
Your perception of speed is relative to landmarks around you. This is literally scientifically how your eye structure works. And scientifically, we have known this about high-level baseball players, people who, anyone who uses vision to try and track movement. Actually, in the case of baseball, they can't even track, the ball moves too fast. Mm-hmm. They have to use other landmarks.
Right.
Relative to the ball
100%
to understand how to hit it, right? Mm-hmm. This is Dr. Rob Gray talking about this stuff, right? So when in the power, so what's happening here, and I said this in this group, and I got laugh reacts. Why did I get laugh reacts?
Because people don't understand it.
They don't understand. They think it's a cope. They think I'm coping. I'm not coping. I'm talking from an actual scientific basis.
Well, I think if people were to respond to the things that you are saying, or rather not respond and actually take a minute to do the research for themselves, or in some cases,
to actually listen to what I have to say.
Yeah, in some cases, just listen to what you have to say, because I really think that you break down and palletize things in a way to where people can really get it in like microdoses and then start to really comprehend like what's going on. If I be honest, I think that you're like, sometimes when you talk, like when we're just like, because you know me and you will call or chat or whatever, I like it's sometimes too dense for me. And I literally have to take it back for a second and just kind of break down each word and really understand what you're saying and be like, oh, I understand that. Or sometimes in some cases I'm like, oh, I thought that too. I just didn't have a word or put it how you put it as far as like, you know, the technical aspect of it. But people weren't so ego driven, especially Taekwondo coaches. Oh my freaking God.
Terrible.
Like if you were to take away your ego a little bit about what you think that you know as a coach, and God forbid somebody else has another insight or objective perspective to what you do as a coach, you probably would really get what it is that you're saying, what you said just now, and really digest it and take it and then apply it to what you do. Like how difficult is it for someone else to understand that no, people were not more like dynamic when in terms of like doing Nautobonds and stuff like that's objective, because people just are not doing Nautobonds no more. No. And not only that, and that's because it's so low percentage scoring, because it's such
for the uninitiated, what is a Nautobond?
Right. So sure, stuff like that might be, you know, objective. Okay, it's not as dynamic, but when you say things like people are not kicking as hard, they're foot fencing.
Yeah.
They're tapping.
Right?
Like literally, that's the word people use.
Yeah,
this little foot tapping that people are doing nowadays, you quite literally have no choice but to hit to a certain power threshold now and score to that same power threshold every single time you kick.
Yeah. You have to generate more power with less movement.
More consistently. Every single.
So there's a hidden invisible. Like that's
tough, yo.
It's more athletic in a way.
Yo,
but it's invisible. But it's invisible.
But it's not. And then let me tell you why it's not, because
but to the uninitiated.
What's more invisible than using regular Hogel, no type of electronic scoring. Referees, and when I say referees, I'm talking about old geezers who are adjusting their glasses every couple seconds and probably missing what's going on and wiping the sweat from their brow and can't really even see to the middle of the ring from the 10-meter distance. Like, what's more invisible than a false pretense of what you think is actually going on in the match, to where you would hit a button and award somebody a point or 2 points or 3 points for something that you think hit. I cannot tell you how many times somebody would throw an axe kick or whatever, and I was really good about doing, like, even before, like I don't want to say like before my time, but I was just really good at leaning backward. Like a lot of people dip and still get hit because they dip inward and people drag the leg over.
Me.
I was really good. I clocked you a couple times.
You got me a few good times too.
I would always, because I would fight people, right? And I would literally go and I would lose because I'm fighting like these heavy hitter guys, and I would lose and go home and think about it. And quite literally the next time, the person's not able to hit me with that same thing anymore. Yeah. I would rack my brain and stay up at night to try to figure out how to get better at the sport. Yeah. And I started like leaning back, and people will put their foot right here, nowhere near my head. 3 points. Because some old geezer, right, is over on this side of the ring. You don't even have the angle to see what's going on accurately.
So let me back up. That's great because you have a better. I actually came from the background a lot of these people are criticizing from, but I want to back up on a perceptual skill level of why people look at the old school
and think
it's and that's because when you already know, guys, you already know and you already agree with me, but you're so blindsided by a prejudice towards Taekwondo, or maybe to be more diplomatic about it, you just don't know about Taekwondo. It's just some level of ignorance.
A lot of it.
Throw a big technique without a setup. No matter how fast you throw it, it's going to look kind of slow.
Right.
No matter how fast you are.
Thus, the Nalabon or tornado kick.
Throw the technique well-timed within a broader combination inside of the context of an active fight. Whoa, blinding speed, dude. I can't believe that back kick came out of nowhere, dude.
Never comes out.
Joe Rogan, that back kick came out of nowhere. You know, if you look at some of his old, they're like, man, he's so blinding fast, but he usually has some sort of setup for it.
Like, quite literally, when you watch, so me, I love watching replays, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why I love watching, in particularly of like knockouts, because, you know, they always show replays during UFC and whatnot, and you will see, and it's just because the human eye to track things like that is just so slow, right, that you just can't see like the intricacies as it's happening in real time. So I was like, oh my God, they got to play that back. And I'm like, I know they're going to play it back because that's what they do in the UFC. Yeah. But like some people will be like, I'll go watch it at like, you know, a bar, Hooters or something. People are going crazy. Did you see that back? It came out of nowhere. And I'm like, hold on, wait until they play it back. like no, I don't want to hear what you're saying or anything. I want to see when they play it back. And you always see the jab step. The person comes in, thinks that you're leaning in, they jab. They open up for the back kick. They turn. You always see them. And I'm like, and then I'm the one person in the bar that's like, oh, that's how that happened. So it wasn't so crazy how it came to be. I'm the one person like, oh, that's how that happens. Like, yeah, it was good. Like, yeah, it happened. It was exciting or whatever. But it didn't happen in the way that you think it happened.
It didn't actually literally come out of.
And when I argue with people, I tell people this all the time. Like, you're right, but you're not right for the reasons that you think you're right. Yeah. Yes, the back kick happened. The other person didn't see it or whatever case may be, but it didn't happen out of nowhere the way that you think that it happened.
Yeah, nobody's really that fast. So it's like, what happens in the Olympic, the old school, is so many techniques are being thrown from both sides that it's difficult to track.
Like together too. It's like, who do you watch and
it's difficult
your eye cannot keep up and everybody's spinning.
It seems faster. It seems more dynamic. It seems more powerful.
And if you even want to get outside of Taekwondo and talk from a technical aspect of just having proper camera gear, the frames per second or watching things in 4K is totally even different. It's like what you will see, like literally watch a 2012 to 2016 to 2008, or so 2008 is the Olympic Games that people say was the best Olympic Games because of the dynamic and the knockouts and things that were happening. Let's just be frank about that. It is the 2008 Olympic Games that people are talking about, right? And then 2012 is when the transition to Dado happened, and people are talking about, oh my God, it was the worst thing that happened in Taekwondo, right? However, look at the advent of technology, 4K and things of that nature, and look at how pixelated even on YouTube stuff from 2008 is, which is really not that far back, but like how far 2008 is, and look how like the frames per second that you can catch now. It just slows stuff up.
Yeah.
Like think about how you can watch like. Literally, okay, let's take it even beyond that.
It's the Bruce Lee effect, right? Everyone thinks Bruce Lee is unreal fast.
Literally, like if you know anything about the advent of technology and what they had to do because of Bruce Lee movies, they literally called him so fast because the camera couldn't keep up with it. The technology just wasn't there. Now you can see things more intricately. Like literally, whoever has a 4K TV, and you've already seen this, like you already know it's like. I don't care about the Olympics, Taekwondo, none of that. Like, go watch Chicago PD. Literally take your 4K device, TV, whatever, and go watch Chicago PD. Do you see how people's heads and stuff are turning now with that 4K vision, and you see the wrinkles and stuff in their head, and things look even studio quality production actually looks kind of choppy now in a way? Yeah. It's because even movie production hasn't caught up to where we are technologically advanced with the type of cameras and stuff and things that we were able to get as far as resolution is concerned.
This happened when Blu-ray hit the scene, and there was District 9. When I first saw that was the first. District 9 was hella good sci-fi movie.
It was kind of good.
It was a good sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just say, all right. So moving on. When I first saw District 9, and I'd never seen a Blu-ray before, and we're way past that now. Right. I mean, this is like 2012, whatever. I think District 9 2012. And no, it was before that, whatever. I saw that, I'm like, this does not seem this it was so realistic, and the lighting, the way everything was, it didn't seem like it had been touched up in the studio, because studio productions have a different kind of hue to them. This looked like it was filmed with like a high level GoPro.
Well, they had
like
to.
no after,
like studio had to. Like people do a lot more of like, I've literally saw this thing like you like a lot of people don't know this, but I'm like, I guess just a nerd when it comes to many things. Like I just like to know about like different things. Yeah. And there's pieces of the Avengers, like Infinity War, Endgame, that were literally shot on iPhone. Like they just took the phone and like moved it and dragged it up, right?
Yeah.
And they literally took that segment, off of it goes in the photos after that, and literally plugged it into probably Adobe Premiere, because that's like the industry standard. And you would never freaking know it was from an iPhone.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You would never freaking know it from my phone. And I know it seems to people who think that like we're like off on a tangent and stuff like that. We're really not. We're talking about how you perceptually think Taekwondo from 2008 is better than Taekwondo let's not even talk about now.
You guys are getting
because of simple things like camera quality.
You're getting
game. That's what you're getting.
Y'all are getting a $4,000 consultation on human perception because you made us upset about what you said about Taekwondo. You're getting a master class on human perception.
Yeah, because you make us upset about some stuff that is
y'all don't know.
But what makes me mad about it is that I always, and I've told you this, I am not the sharpest tool in the shed. A lot of stuff that I know is really like I think about like my master's degree, right? Yes, we actually both have master's degrees and like our disciplines and a lot of things are what we talk about, things that we've actually studied and have studied extensively over long periods of time. And I'm saying that to say it's like what the biggest thing that I've learned, to be honest with you, from having a formal education is referencing.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot of things that are just reference based. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I really am not the person who is coming up with the stuff that I am telling you. And for me to not be the sharpest tool in the shed and be able to reference, right? And not only that, being able to be introspective enough to think how something works or why something seems better now than it did back then. Why can't someone else do that? Who I think and feel, as an athlete, as a person, like you don't have no cognitive disabilities or anything like that, do you? Like you laugh like
does Krav Maga count
for real?
As a cognitive disability?
Don't get me. Don't even. Let's try to keep it on Olympic Taekwondo. That's another
Sorry, guys. That's another episode.
That's another episode, man. We can go all nighter about that too, man. But just how you, as a person, as a martial artist, can be more introspective than you are about things that you hear and then would rather perpetuate rather than think about whether that's true. Again, i.e. foot fencing. First of all, a lot of these people that are talking about foot fencing, they have never been to even a G1 level of it in any capacity in anywhere around the world. Right? Yeah. Right. So, and I mention that to say that even with electronic sparring, like when matches and stuff are going on, even at the same time, the amount of boom, da, pow,
right. Pow, you don't hear it. You don't hear it on video. Yeah. Right? When you're watching on YouTube. But yo, these people are smacking people around these rings, yo. These people are kicking the dog hell out of like these hogus and these people and these individuals. And they're because someone isn't caving or falling or or anything. And there's something about, and you probably can explain this in a scientific way better than I could, but there's something about an athlete, you getting smacked like that. One, that the adrenaline and things are pumping for you to be able to go on. I can tell you how many times I've been in a tournament and I've been kicked in the balls and I've still been able to make it look like I haven't. Yes, I did get kicked in the balls. We lifted our legs at the same time. And to be honest with you, yes, it hurts in the moment, but I'm not about to get caught slipping and give up 3 points or whatever because of it. I'm gonna walk that off. Another thing that these people know is combat physiology. You elicit that sort of chemical response.
What do you mean these people know combat physiology?
They should. This is a self-defense.
They don't know. They don't.
Well, y'all.
That's what we're talking now.
Okay. Well, a bunch of Taekwondo nerds are going to tell you how this works. So when you enter what's called a fight or flight situation, when you have perceived something that is a high threat, potentially a high threat to your life, when you go into competition, this happens. You have an adrenal response.
Like
cortisol.
The same as if it would be on the street.
It's very similar, Right,
very similar to that.
And if you've never done it before, and people who first started jiu-jitsu, they know, that rolling with a brand new white belt is dangerous because they don't know, they do things that they don't remember.
Even sparring Taekwondo, it's like they revert back to the street and you're worrying about stuff. It's the same thing.
They can do things that hurt you because they move in weird ways and they break rules. I sparred a white belt one time. I say this story all the time, but it proves the point, right? Or it demonstrates the point. Where he scratched the inside of my eye and poked me up in the ridge into the socket. I'm probably lucky not to have any damage.
For real.
And he didn't. I had a scratch afterwards when we were done rolling, and he looked at me, and he's like, dude, you got this scratch across your face. I'm like, dude, you gave it to me.
You did it.
He didn't remember because he had an adrenal response,
and they don't know what they're doing.
And he doesn't remember because what was happening. So what happens? Your vision occludes, which means you get tunnel vision. That's the technical term for it. You feel less pain. Your nerve responses get dampened. Your motor, this is the one everyone talked about, right? Your fine motor skills deteriorate, and that's another box of warning because reality-based self-defense people don't understand what the difference is between fine and gross motor. Yeah. That's a whole other thing of ignorance that I'm going to get into later in other podcasts. But all this stuff happens and you're actually able to handle that. You can even handle an entirely broken limb. And we know this. We know this from Forrest Griffin had both arms broken in an MMA match and still won.
Okay, so I get it now when you say that people know this for the simple fact that the things that they do like to watch, it has happened there.
They will say it, they'll watch it and they'll say it, but then they look at Taekwondo.
The problem is the non-translation for Taekwondo. Like you think that the same types of things doesn't happen in this sport because if I'm honest, it doesn't have the aesthetics that you want it to have. You don't understand any of the nuances or intricacies, right? Even Taekwondo people, right? So it's not credible. These same things don't happen, within the sport of Taekwondo, which is just absolutely
Yeah,
False.
you have a chemical response. You have what boxers might call composure. So you have an increased capacity to handle that.
Ring IQ.
Because you're not doing as much of the dynamic stuff.
Well, not only
you also
that,
have a better base to receive that.
Let's talk about nuance for a second, though, right? Like, so right now, I think we are talking about some pretty objective stuff that is rooted in science. And I know we like to do that just because a lot of what we say, like, and I don't want to seem like a know-it-all, it's just irrefutable stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's really just irrefutable stuff that has been tried, tested, and proven through multiple sports. Multiple sports, science and research that this works. But I also want to talk about it from a more nuanced level, more specific to Taekwondo, because there are things happening and what's happening is kind of scientific too, but talking about it in the realm of Taekwondo in a way, so maybe people can palatinize it more, just in case we are saying things that are dense that people don't understand. And basically what I'm saying that to get at is that we're talking about how people are fighting the perception of what you think that happened in 2008 of people kicking more dynamic and whatever case may be, but also the nuance of depth perception, timing, and space is also a lot more intricate. Like when we talk about the nuance of the game of Taekwondo itself, is also much more intricate and nuanced than it is there before, because the scoring now is so much more objective, right? They like Taekwondo has literally taken ways to dispute points, right? Like so if a shot gets in, and this is the one caveat that I will give people who like to bag on Taekwondo. Yes, you can actually tap the head and get a point. Yeah. But at the same token, though, where I take away the caveat is who is just trying to tap the head. These people are gunning to lay you out. Yeah. Helmet or not, I've seen people get laid out by getting hit with a spinning hook kick on the cushion part of the helmet. Right. So these things aren't really like protecting you from
people are still getting knocked out.
Right. So I say that to say that the game or nuance of Taekwondo, they literally taken one when it's not electronic scoring, they literally take away a card. You used to get two. Now you have one video replay, right? And when there's video replay, you only get one. And then two, you cannot, absolutely not. They will take your card and the ref will put it in their pocket, won't even deliberate it with the video replay judges if you are trying to contest the headshot. You absolutely 100% cannot contest a shot that actually registered on the Ihogu. And the reason why is because WT says that they believe so much in the scoring system, right? Like for the system to work and do its job, that if you got hit in the head and registered, bro, you got hit in the head. Yeah. And more often than not, yes.
And there's also a move. I've read some press releases from the WT. They allow you to go full contact. You can win by KOing someone.
Well, yeah, 100%.
They want to incentivize people to be able to actually be safer so that they can, and a lot of combat sports are doing this. Boxing is trying to find ways to get around this too. And I don't know how they're going to do it, but they're trying to also make the sport safer, which is fine. That's okay.
Because, well, what you want, but boxing
MMA has weird rules for the same exact reason.
And really what it is to really prolong the longevity of the fighters. Yeah. The whole object is to promote the longevity of fighters, because as long as you have fighters, and then especially the high name ones that are generating revenue and making themselves and then in turn the revenue, the organization lots of money, you want them to have prolonged careers, right? Yeah. It's like everyone, okay, excuse me. Nobody was more devastated than Dana White that Anderson Silva fell off his high streak. Right. We all were like, no, Anderson Silva, blah, 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 blah. Nobody was more upset than Dana White. It's money. You want to know why? Because his money is going down the drain because his star power.
Dana White's probably crying himself to sleep right now because of Conor McGregor.
Right. When you do not have another superstar, which the UFC actually currently does not line up like that, who brings the star power like that, right? You are And as good as Amanda Nunes is, and she does bring in money.
John Jones keeps getting in trouble, so you can't use him.
Cocaine or some crap like that. I think he's actually not doing that anymore. But
that's what they said last time.
Yeah, but you think about like Amanda Nunes, who is a star in her own right, but she just doesn't bring in the numbers like that still. Yeah. The next superstar is not lined up after Conor McGregor, and they're literally racking their brains about what they're going to do with Tough or the UFC championships, the people who win the little series and then get a UFC contract. They're probably racking their brains and sleep at night because of that. Every sport is doing it. Again, another reason why we're even talking right now is because of the flack that we've seen, and we'll get to some other stuff in a minute, about how it just does not translate to Taekwondo. Yeah. And I'm going to use the word grace. The grace that you give other combat arts that have the same, and when I say same, I'm talking about like the exact same issues of spectatorship and people being on the ground and for too long. And, I've been to a UFC fight and people were booing.
Right.
Because and when I say
you used to be able to hear it,
this was like 2 years ago.
Sometimes.
This was like pre-pandemic. Yeah. 2 years ago, I was at a UFC fight and people were booing. And tell you the truth, I 100% didn't agree with it. And because people were booing, the ref, he had to be like a newer ref or whatever. This was during the prelims of the fight that I was watching, and those fights are all day, bro.
Yeah.
Like longer than football games and stuff. Like you go in there for the prelims and stuff, you are literally there for like 8 hours. It's a day. Yeah. But anyway, a little side tangent. The grace isn't given that other arts is given for Taekwondo, and it's in the basis of just very minuscule stuff that anybody who's competent about anything that does not have any cognitive ailments or anything like that can figure out. And quite frankly, just by looking at like what's going on, understand the not necessarily the intricacies, but like the overarching about, hey, this is kind of what's going on. Let me look at it or study it a little further and see why this is happening this way, that is happening that way, and so forth. So why this person didn't get score points when I thought. And to be honest with you, the electronic scoring system, and again, I wouldn't go back to save my life. I can't tell you how many times I've been cheated out of points because something hit my forearm protectors or something. I can't even begin to even
because
I've lost money. Like back when Taekwondo used to have like grand championships and used to fight other people, and there was like $100 like buy-in, and then you would kind of get the pot.
You got the pot, yeah.
Like I've lost money because people have kicked me in non-valid scoring areas, or I've gotten like deductions for stuff I shouldn't have gotten deductions for.
This is a Pandora's box that we can't get into right now, but the reason why the Ihogu came into being was because Koreans were freaking cheating in the Olympics. And they were cheating in the world championships. They were just cheating all over the place.
For those Taekwondo people that are listening that wants to know exactly what he's talking about or referencing, look up something called branch trimming.
Branch trimming.
There is a whole term for it that they made because they wanted certain people, i.e. Steven Lopez, to be a ranked athlete or go to something like the World Championships and made sure that he at least made it to the gold medal match.
Yeah.
Or this athlete made it to the gold medal match against Steven because it'll be more high profile or something like that. Yeah. They literally X'd out other athletes and didn't press buttons when they were supposed to press buttons. Or if you even know more about Taekwondo, when they used to use paper scoring, it had the X or O where you thought somebody hit something because you couldn't do it in the time frame. So you literally would keep looking at, you have a piece of paper and you would keep looking at it, you would do slash, circle, slash, to tally points.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So things like that were happening like freaking crazy.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a whole term for it called branch trimming. Look it up for you Taekwondo people that think y'all know it.
This happens in other sports too. I know that jiu-jitsu people know the Brazilians have done this before.
Anything
they probably still do.
Any system.
Even small town karate people know.
Related or anything like that. Anything.
Small town karate people know. You go 2 towns over. There's a classic being held by Joe Schmo's Karate.
Yeah, they do not know who you are, but they know the whole school.
They know their people. It's all repped by their people, and they know their people. And if you're fighting their people, it better not be close.
To 06, 05 right now, yo. When I used to do point karate, and that's actually one reason why I stopped point karate is because
this is why karate is not going to get in the Olympics, by the way, because they don't have this objective scoring system.
It's just not objective.
It's also even at the highest level of WKF. I've seen what looked like a point on at full speed. They slowed it down. It's the most hilarious shit too, because the announcers have to toe the line. The people look at it slowed down, and you actually see that the other guy got the point first because he got closer first. But they pretend like the guy the ref called got the point. Even though you can see it on the slowed video. Because
there's this, and before electronic sparring, scoring, it happened in Taekwondo as well.
Yeah.
Like the non-contestation. Like I've literally, I went to the state championships one year, bro, and there was an athlete. It wasn't me. I was overhearing actually, and an athlete got disqualified. And when the coach asked the center ref why the athlete got disqualified, he said, "Because I'm the center ref and I can't."
Yeah.
Like real talk. Like crap like that.
Because
happens at the highest level.
You have to respect
at the
refs.
Highest level. Exactly.
Because
it was the non-contestation.
Because you have 8 different perceptions going on from different angles.
Right.
Somebody has to be the arbiter in these situations. So you can't contest the ref, which is for good or for ill, but it keeps in situations where you have 3 different peoples with 3 different opinions on what happened. The ref has got to be the tiebreaker. But that was a good section. But for
I will say that when they move, and it's been a while from paper scoring to, and when I say electronic scoring, I mean to the point where the slash and the circle I was talking about is actually a button on a box.
Yeah.
So they're actually pressing a button like a game now on the side, and it's going to register, as a point on the whatchamacallit. And when they moved to that, it was, a lot better, because in order for it to be scored or registered as a point, depending on whether there were 3 or 5, judges, a certain amount of them had to press the button at the same time. They say that they saw it in order for it to register as a point.
Yeah.
So I actually have done that.
Boxing people understand that.
Before USAT came out with all these regulations about certifications and stuff that you had, I actually used to ref high state championship events and stuff like that. And I used to be one of the person in the box, because all you had to do it, like when you showed up at the event, they would literally put out an announcement and say, "Is anybody here a black belt?" Right? And if you were over the age of 16, they would let you man the boxes. And, I've been doing Taekwondo forever, so I was over 18 and adult at the time. So I'm over there on the boxes as a black belt, no certification, whatever. And I actually have ref quite right now I'm only D-level ref, but I've actually refed quite a few matches prior to this whole certification and stuff coming out, to where I can do I'm certified now, but I'm only D-level just because I do the certification just to keep up with, my athletes, coaching and whatnot. But if the things that USAT, which is why they're getting so much flack about a lot of stuff, they didn't care about me having all this experience prior to, when they came out with their certifications, you had to have the certifications. Right, you had to go get them and work your way back up the ladder. Yeah. And who was doing it? Especially at the time, I was a young guy. People say Taekwondo is a rich man sport. Didn't have the money like that. I'm not paying all this money into it for the experience that I've already got. That should have been taken into account. Make me at least B level or A level. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's no lateral transfer or grandfathering or anything like that.
Right, and they didn't do that this time when they dismantled. They quite literally. It told everybody that they had to start over. They told everybody they had to start over.
Yeah.
You had to go get these credentials. So
Yeah.
you had to pay for the coaches ed seminar. You had to get recertified level 1. That is right there. If you register in time, it's $350.
Yeah. But
And then it's nowhere near you because
Yeah.
you're in the East Coast and they only do it like in Colorado Springs or in Houston, Texas or some crap like that, or California.
Yeah.
Like who's going out there from where we live?
And all this is to say that basically you have really inexperienced refs a lot. Too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which again, let's talk about it because people think that I just went off on a tangent just now and this doesn't relate to present day Taekwondo.
Yeah. It's not a tangent.
You don't understand like the whole rant that I just went on about USAT certifications and things of that nature and being in the ref and whatnot is the reason why Taekwondo went to a more objective way of scoring is because they were catching hell from the IOC.
Mm-hmm.
They were catching absolute hell. People always talk about, I think it's quite funny. I'll get on a forum or Reddit and I'll see something that somebody posted or whatever, and it's somebody who doesn't know what they are talking about. So that's why Taekwondo's on the chopping blocks for the Olympics every year. First of all, it's not.
No.
Just be honest. Like it's actually
Look,
not on chopping block.
You guys underestimate the guy of Koreans. Sorry.
And when they were on the chopping block, right? Because it was literally only a time. It's like they're about to get dismantled from the Olympics. They should do Pumse, blah 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 blah. Pumse would never make it, by the way. But the one time that they were on the chopping block, and it wasn't even a chopping block, it was more of an IOC approaching them to say, hey, we just need your sport to be more objective. Like if they didn't comply, maybe they would have been on a chopping block. Mm-hmm. But it's like, hey, like there's just too much ambiguity. We see it in your sport. We hear it from your sport contestations because for those of you who know anything about, upper level competitions and whatnot, you can actually dispute something after the fact. The match is over, it's in the books and whatnot, and it's actually still being disputed amongst the, especially international competition, amongst the country. Yeah. So people talk about Bianca walked in, did this, and it was being disputed against the girl that she fought from China about how she was pushing her out of the ring and blah, 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 blah. Countries are battling this crap.
Yeah.
Whole governing bodies,
exactly what you're talking about.
Whole governing bodies are doing contestation of this crap months after the fight has already taken place to, adjust scores and Olympic ranking and, stuff like that. But anyway, the IOC approached WT, after the Beijing Games and told them that it just has to be way more. People are talking about, they did it because of spectatorship. No, it was because they were approached about ambiguity amongst how things were freaking being done. And they had to do something about it if they wanted to appease the people to remain an Olympic sport, although they were never on the chopping block of the powers that be at the IOC. It's like, okay, what sports are we going to get rid of this year? That's not how it works.
People look at Taekwondo and they think to themselves, look how much it's devolved. So they immediately think,
look
it's
how
on
much
the
is
chopping
involved.
block. But it's not, right?
Look how much is involved. Look how much is much more intricate now. So I'll tell you. Terrence Jennings, right, came to do and Terrence Jennings, 2012 bronze Olympian. He came to my school to do a seminar just 1 year, and it was so funny, man, because when you know people or interact with people or have been around with people, and you see how they're talking and being and stuff versus how you used to see him. Because if I'm honest, before I actually knew who he was. Like as a person, I would see him on TV and stuff, being, man, that guy's good, man, that guy's fast, which he is. Even you don't see him actively competing, but the guy can still kick. I see him training with Paige and whatnot. The guy can still kick, right? So anyway, he comes to school, he's doing the seminar, and then he's around us. He's cool. He's a regular dude. Yeah. Right? He's a regular dude. You idolize these people. You see Abu Ghash or Husseini, bro. You see these people God, man, these guys can fight and blah, blah, blah. But he's a cool, regular dude who is also like a good Taekwondo competitor as well, right? And he's talking one day and he's just listening to like these kids off on the side of another table while we were, doing a little break in the seminar, talking about like the new Taekwondo uniforms at the Olympics. Yeah. So we finally seen the implementation of the new Taekwondo forms at the Olympics for us. Now we've been seeing these uniforms being shopped around for years now. This is the first Olympics where they're actually being used. And when I say they're actually better uniforms, like forget aesthetics. Think about built-in gear that's not shifting the entire match for people to, you know what I'm saying? Athletically is better. Like, what happened to the traditional dobok? There's so many problems, y'all.
Right.
Like, if you know anything about Taekwondo and you competed on that level before, there's so many problems about the traditional dobok underneath that gear.
Absolutely.
So the guys were just talking. I think he just had enough. Right. And he didn't like spaz out or anything. He really said it cool, calm, and collected. And it was literally just, you guys over there talking about the way the uniform is and how you don't like it and you can't believe it. Like, why would they change it? And to be honest with you, they kind of like were kids. So y'all are really just really regurgitating what you heard some old schoolers say. Like you really don't have your own opinion about like what it is that occurred. You're kind of just spewing it and using it for talking points. And he just said, y'all really talk about the new level, uniforms and stuff. It's like if you were even like y'all say that y'all love Taekwondo and stuff, right? If y'all were even able to get to that level to where they gave you a uniform like that you had to wear at that height of competition, you wouldn't bat a freaking eye. You wouldn't think twice about putting that bad boy on because that is literally the epitome of your sport.
That's a kill shot right there.
It really was.
Because they're in kind of a weaselly pissant frame of mind of almost like a boomer. It's like Taekwondo boomers, right? They complain about the same Taekwondo thing. Boomers. Back in my day, Taekwondo. But back in his day, Taekwondo wasn't really that either. But
and what makes me kind of mad and upset about that when it happens is because I have literally traversed the old school and the new school of Taekwondo just because I was in that weird time frame. It's like you think about people like Tim Thackeray, right? Who talk about new school Taekwondo and whatnot. Now and granted, he is a competent coach that knows what he's talking about. That's produced some athletes and whatnot, but he's also never fought in
the new meta,
meta, right? Yeah. So it's like. And there's coaches that are pushing out Olympic athletes that never fought. Like, think about Juan Moreno. Juan Moreno is the God MC of what we say in the hip hop culture. God MC. He's like the God MC of Taekwondo, right? Like how many athletes? He literally had 5 athletes from his peak camp go to the Olympics this year, right? So he's like the God MC of but he can only coach one because that's how Olympics is. But he's the God MC of Taekwondo. He's like that guy. That was 2000.
Yeah.
He's for real.
Yeah.
Never fought.
But he coaches people consistently to that.
The most consistent probably coach in all of Taekwondo about, the Olympics. And well, I guess the only person who's kind of really above him in the United States would be Stephen Lopez, but it just has been who's been to like more Olympics. A lot of people do not go to 3 Olympics. Taekwondo, like there's a 17-year-old girl that almost got gold this year.
Yeah.
In whatchamacallit. Like Taekwondo is such a young man. It's like game. Like literally there are 17-year-olds like coming up from different countries that are beasts. I'm talking, this girl's 17 and when I say like she was exciting to watch 17. Like people talk about like male-female matches and blah, 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 blah. She was for real. The things she was doing and moving around with her leg and the timing and accuracy and stuff. It was just
but most people level, don't have the eye and the knowledge to know what's going on. But I literally equate her to like the Amanda Nunes of Taekwondo. Obviously, she's not
undefeated or anything like Amanda Nunes is, but like the way that the girl was just fighting, she lost to somebody who's just been like 29 plus years old that just got like experience fighting, and you 17 years old. But you to be 17 years old and do what you did against like world championships and people who literally got gold in the division 4 years prior and whatnot, and you knocked them out in round one of the freaking Olympics, like crap like that, like is unheard of. And she was doing good stuff. You got these young people that are coming up in Taekwondo that are doing some real and amazing things. And if you, as like a Taekwondo person, you say you love Taekwondo. So first of all, another thing that gets me is when people talk about their love for Taekwondo and whatever. Matter of fact, I'll tell you about a conversation that we had with Coach Juan Moreno. Like one of my Army Taekwondo team buddies at the time, he asked Coach Moreno when we were, all just chilling one day about like, and granted, the Army Taekwondo team person was older, like I think he's like, almost like 40 or maybe like 41, like right now or something like that. But he asked Coach about where he thought the game with Taekwondo was. And this was like 2017 at the time, right?
A few years ago.
Yeah, because I obviously don't fight no more. I obviously don't fight no more. Right, let me put this on 1 second.
There we go.
Yeah. So I obviously don't fight no more, right? So this is, a few years ago when I was active. But he asked him, what do you think about the current state of Taekwondo? And Coach has this other interview that's like when Ironwood was a thing, which was actually kind of promising that they had kept it going.
Yeah.
But they have an interview about how he's just talking about he's a Taekwondo nerd. Talking about like everything about it, like even martial arts, like he'll go down rabbit holes like martial arts videos and just watch anything just because he like, just loves to consume it and watch it and be in the presence of like different arts and stuff like that. And he told him when he asked him, we were around, that he doesn't get into the whole old school Taekwondo versus new school Taekwondo thing.
Yeah.
He loves Taekwondo and he is evolving with the sport because he loves it that much that even if it moves into a time or something that he might not agree with or whatever, that's where the sport is. So he's going to train, himself. And by the way, my man can still kick, yo. Like we'll be at a seminar or something. He's like still kicking it high and demonstrating and rechambering and stuff. Like the dude just turned like 40 something.
Yeah.
Or 50, I think.
You know what? I think he's more towards 50.
Yeah. I think he's just because we actually did a video at the school that we all, he does peak. So all the peak schools are like, happy 50th birthday, coach. But he said he doesn't get into that new school, old school. Yeah. He evolves and moves with the art. All these people that talk about they love Taekwondo. Do you really love Taekwondo? Do you really believe in Taekwondo? Do you really know about it as an art form and where it's come from and are with it through thick and thin? I say no to some of these cats because you are not willing to evolve. Like I know people who will not teach their schools the cut kick. Yeah. But have the nerve and quite literally the audacity to take them to a tournament. And when I say they get stumped, like stumped out, like you are not even affording, like, so.
And the cut kick is the quote unquote
it's the
foot
foundation,
fencing.
Right?
That's what
it's
people
the
call foot fencing.
Well, I think it actually evolved from the cut kick to the cancel now. Like it was the cut kick prior to because people were cut kicking at the same time.
It was a more discreet movement.
Right, and then out of the cut kick, the cancel was formed. Right. People were cut kicking at the same time. They were like, well, yeah, a cut kick, I can move the leg, Yeah. So people were so it the foot fencing evolved to one thing and it became another thing. But like if you really love or really into Taekwondo like that, does that matter? And are you affording your students that you are teaching the opportunity? Because what if you have somebody that's athletically skilled? And I've seen people who are athletically skilled who could probably have been something in Taekwondo that are now 30-something years old and they're doing something like Kung Fu, whatever case may be. Which is fine if you want to do Kung Fu, whatever, especially for, internal purposes or just to like be active or whatever. But I know people who moved over to Kung Fu because they say that they were stagnated in Taekwondo. You were stagnated because you're a freaking instructor / coach. And I know people, I'm a big proponent of making sure people are Kukiwan certified. And I promise you it's not because I'm behind the teachings and curriculum of Kukiwan, because I ain't.
No.
But the reason why I do it is because you quite literally do not have a shot at international competition if you do not have a Kukiwan certification. The WT and Kukiwan are like this, so much so that they don't afford anybody with any other type of certification the ability to even be and to even qualify to compete in their arenas. And if you have somebody that is athletically gifted in that way, and you just gave them a Joe Schmo black belt with whomever, that doesn't mean anything outside of Joe Schmo black belt, you are not doing your students a service. And I say that to say, if you are not delving into, as a Taekwondo practitioner / coach, and especially, if you got students and you're on these forums typing out some of the crap that I see, and you have the audacity to talk to somebody like you or I about something realms that you don't even know about, and you say you have students and you want your students to do good and be athletes and this, that, and the third, you don't love Taekwondo. No. You don't love Taekwondo. You don't love it enough to afford your students the opportunity
you are attached to some
perceptions,
weird idea of something that was
weird ideology
20 years ago that probably isn't even what you remember it to be. Like, it probably wasn't even that thing back then. It almost certainly wasn't, right?
People
remember the blood and guts era of karate. Karate people have way better technique.
I actually like that era
so much. And it's a cool
people
era.
People like Joe Louis literally were interviewed, and they talked about how karate people now have much better technique.
Exactly, dude. People just don't know, dude.
And the level of technique that it is. And I love to like branch and take things out of the realm of Taekwondo for the simple fact that I think I like to, and I'm biased because I do Taekwondo. However, I have a very mitigated bias to the point to where a lot of stuff that I'm saying is rooted in research and development, right, of sports science. And I like to take stuff outside of the realm of Taekwondo just to kind of correlate it to what you said about people, things. Nothing is what it was 20 years ago, right? Yeah. And most of the time, nothing that's what it was 20 years ago is 10,000 times better today. Right. You ever heard Arnold Schwarzenegger talk about weightlifting today versus when he did it? He said the research and science wasn't even there.
Yeah.
Like they were inventing it as they go. Like
it was all bro science.
They did so many things that nowadays are proven to not have been majorly impactful anyway. But at that time, when you were training, and to be honest with you, I kind of come from that era of training with Taekwondo, that my masters and instructors had me do so many things because their masters and instructors had them doing it. But now that I'm older, there's things that I would never have my students and athletes do because they do not render the same results.
Absolutely.
They don't render any results at all. There are literally I can't tell you, and I'll give you the perfect example of this. I cannot tell you how many stretches that I've literally stripped my students from doing. That even I used to do early on as an instructor because I was doing things, honestly, that my instructor had me doing. That when I found out, when I actually started to study P&F stretching, Google it. Like y'all so-called Taekwondo instructors and whatnot doing these stretches that your masters had you doing, that literally the stretch does nothing for perpetuating a permanent change in your musculature as far as elasticity is concerned. Google PNF stretching. And I'm be honest with you, I do not, it's like pseudo-neural. To be honest with you, I don't know what it stands. I used to. Right? But everybody in the culture, right? Yeah. We call it, even yoga, right? They call it PNF stretching. And once I found out about that, I can't tell you how many There's so many people that find out information and then keep with the same routines and stuff just because it's the same routine. I took out so many stretches from my routines that I have my students do. And now I only have them quite literally, do stretching the P and F way. I was going to like say the routine and how many stretches we do, because after a certain count or point, the body doesn't.
We've given them enough free value for the day. We don't have to give them a whole masterclass. Actually, I like the way this is turning out, because I can cut this in 2 segments. Against people outside Taekwondo, against people inside Taekwondo.
Right.
Taekwondo boomers versus martial arts boomers. But
did we hit everything right quick? I know we got to wrap it up.
We have the one more thing that I happened to write down, and that is the technical evolution. We, the Olympic Taekwondo people, I say we, but I'm not really in this boat. I'm interested in, and I would like to cultivate and teach it, but have developed different ways of generating the same power into smaller movements that aren't as big and spectacular. And people know that this is possible to do in other martial arts, but they can't figure out how it could be done in Taekwondo.
Because they look at something, what they think is flippy, is a flippy kick, and because it's rechambered in the air and not set down on the ground, there's no way it could have the same amount of power. But when you think about something like, let's think a very basic tactic in early on Taekwondo, when you're teaching an athlete to have better leg dexterity, right? What you do is you actually reverse it. The basic principle of kicking low, getting the hands down or whatever, and then kicking high. Well, when you're teaching an athlete to have better leg dexterity, you actually want to reverse that, because it's actually extremely difficult to be able to kick high and then move it down low to a valid scoring area and then hit with the proper amount of power to where it scores. So an example of that would be doing let's say a front leg hop step, skip, or fast kick, what some Taekwondo athletes will call to the face, right? Rechambering that and turning it down to a flop on the back side in an open stance, right? People will look at the fast kick and see the rechamber and see how it's flopped down and how it looks flippy, but you don't understand the mechanics of the person who turned his body, make sure his knee was pointed downward.
It's like a whip or a ball.
Right, exactly. So falling. The thud, literally, and I'm telling you right now, yo, when we train that in the lab, is what I like to call the dojo nowadays, in the lab, like, especially me, like when I'm training with athletes, like I'm not suiting up how they are. But I ain't no punk. Like, I grew up in the era of Taekwondo where they were blasting you, you know? So I would literally put the paddle up by my face. They'll kick, the paddle. I'll dip my head so I don't get hit in the head. Obviously, I don't have any gear on. And then I'll take the other paddle and I'll move it behind me like this so they can do a flop on it. When I'm telling you, 14-year-old kids are smacking that paddle on my backside, and I feel it in my back going home later on that night from a 14-year-old kid. Do you think an Olympic level athlete is just flipping these kicks and they have no power, and that they were way more powerful back in 2008 when you need a certain level of pressure threshold more consistently in order to be able to even score a kick like that?
Zero chance.
It literally does not make sense. It's unfathomable to me how these people can think that these are just flippy, wishy-washy kicks based on the PSS system having to meet a certain level of power in order to kick.
Yeah.
Like, it can't be flippy.
No.
It can't be.
No. So that leads
us. It won't score.
So they're finding different ways to shift the hip, use momentum.
Which means what? It's much more intricate and dynamic than what was going on in 2008 when literally people were doing barrages of kicks and it's smacking because of the type of gear that you had on to make it seem like it was dynamic. It quite literally wasn't.
You had to have the volume back then. You had to make the noise.
That is what scored points back then.
Yeah.
Like, quite literally what scored points back then was volume. And if I got to be honest with you, I was good at it. I was good. To tell you the truth, I had this particular well, first of all, my fast kick was blazing fast.
Yeah.
Like my fast kick was like for a lot of people, because it's not a trained technique, and to be honest with you, even Olympic athletes now, because the fast kick is not a trained technique, it's actually slower, I would say that, than it was back in the day, just because if it's not trained, it's not trained. Yeah. My fast kick back then was trained because it was the thing to do, especially if you could do it blinding fast.
I remember that because I did a seminar back then.
Yo, I can't tell you how many times I scored, and matches back then were low percentage scoring because of the whole, people. So people talk about trembling shock, and there's a lot of people who did not fight during that era.
Yeah.
If I gotta be honest, trembling shock really wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
I was never rocked.
Yeah.
Like, even when I got hit and scored on and it was a clean hit, it really wasn't trembling through my body. You know what I mean? Like,
it was actually literally, it was actually harder to score a Taekwondo's punches. It was harder to score a punch back then than it is now, because you actually had to punch in a way where your arm stayed straight and you couldn't put as much momentum behind it. And it had to move the person a little bit, but it was highly subjective.
And it was the only thing, literally the only thing that you could attribute to having to have trembling shock was the punch.
Yeah.
Why are you attributing that to a whole era of Taekwondo, including the kicks? That is just not true.
Right.
It was just the punch. In order to score just the punch, it had to have trembling shock.
You want a great understanding of this ignorance that I actually just remembered was in that same group. A guy said he posted a fight between two women at the Olympics recently, and they do that, and they get back, and they put their hand up in the air and all that. And he's like, he's listing all the things out he doesn't, that's wrong, and that's whatever's happening. So they're literally calling their own points. And I'm like, hold on a second.
They are actually
calling their own points. Mm-hmm. That was like the strategy back in the old days, because you did not have
100%.
You had to try and bias the judge by being louder after 100%. The score.
And that is
but now you have the ihogu. You cannot literally cause a point to get on the board anymore, but you could back in the day.
Now, I will kind of hop on board with that person, if you will, and will say that the punches nowadays are still biased in that way. You will still see a lot of people.
I'm talking about just regular scoring.
Old school.
Regular scoring.
Like you can still score a punch that way.
Yeah.
By punching,
even with kicks, though, I'm saying he's saying that they're scoring. Yeah. There's still.
Okay.
No.
Now,
I'm saying
kicks, you're right with that back in the day. You can't do that no more with kicks.
You could in the day, but you can't anymore. And this guy's acting like you can do it now and not in the day. It's totally exactly the opposite. And that's absolute ignorance. He's calling new Taekwondo for something that actually was a fault of old Taekwondo and is no longer a fault anymore. Right. And he's just so ignorant of it. He's just, all he did was watch that.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I like the little bit of this conversation is kind of just making me mad thinking about the times that I was like cheated back in the day. I remember this one time, this dude, just to talk about the glory days, this dude threw a kick and I caught it. Like, it didn't even touch me. To be honest with you, I should have got the penalty for holding. Mm-hmm. But he got the point for the kick. And to tell you the truth, I wish I got the penalty, because, like, to be honest with you, I thought it was cool that I caught his freaking foot, like, in my hands. Like, as a matter of fact, to tell you the truth, it wasn't my hands, because so if you grab or not in Taekwondo, for people who don't know, and even Taekwondo people, if you get a foot hung up, especially in the day or anything, like, you was getting called for holding, right?
Yeah.
So he actually did a kick, and I caught the kick in between my freaking forearm guards, and I thought that was cool. Yeah. And I was like, man, that's so cool. I would rather
give me my penalty
he didn't even hit me.
Come on, you didn't recognize it.
Like quite literally, there was space. His foot is here, this is here, and there's space. It was nowhere near me. Dude ended up getting, the point for it. When I say I caught it, like, there was half a second or whatever, where the foot like was still there, and they, ended up giving the point. And like I said, I would rather have been called for the penalty, just because I thought it was so cool that I actually caught it. Like, don't give him the point. He didn't touch
Y'all
me.
literally just ignore what I did. But that's the problem with perception. It's just
that's what we were talking about with this dude. It's like people literally caught it. They were like round kick and go, bah! I did it. So I remember when I made like the transition from like a state championship athlete, right, to somebody who was competent enough to like go to nationals now, right? And when you go to nationals, right, sometimes you are not coached by your hometown coach, especially if that person, like, you know, my martial art background, like I actually traversed a lot, especially my early competition career, and really didn't have somebody that was coaching me. I went by myself and won fights with no coach in my whatchamacallit. But then going to the national level, like, to be honest with you, people there, you know, you meet like some nice individuals and whatnot, and I would get coached by people who really didn't know, you know, who I was as a fighter, and then they would give me tips and stuff after the fights or before the fights and whatnot. Hey, make sure you're like, and these coaches will literally tell you, you know, competent people who are coaching people on national, international level, they're telling you, hey, you need to call your points more, because that was something that I did not do at one point. Yeah, I was actually coached and taught to, hey, like there's some selling involved with this.
Right. Yeah. There used to be literal salesmanship.
Yeah, there's some salesmanship.
In old school Taekwondo. Now, does that sound like a combat sport to you? Like, come on.
Right. There's some there's some literal salesmanship that had to happen with your punches, definitely. And then and in a lot of cases as well with your kicks as well that just do not score today. And this is why I will never go back. And I had the toughest time. And I'm telling you, first of all, I used to do point karate and I used to clean up, right? And then I wanted like to do Taekwondo and better competition and whatnot. That was actually, to be honest with you, just formatted better. Like Taekwondo competitions are just like, when they're well run, they're well run. Yeah. So I was like, man, I'm tired of getting cheated. And literally, like at point karate matches, like I've seen people rip up paper and I've drawn like a number that they wrote in a pencil and ripped up paper of what bracket I would be in at the day of the event. Taekwondo is not having that. No. That crap is mapped out, you know. So I switched over to Taekwondo because of that. And that's actually when I started losing. And then I started to train and you know, get a competent coach. And I actually started to get better at Taekwondo sparring, right? And then but I think about all of that time during that period and whatnot, and I think about the transition over in electronic sparring and me sparring, you know, up until 2017, where, you know, KP&P and Gen 2 came out and all this other stuff with Dado, and I just would never go back. Like, it's just so much better now. And to be honest with you now, I'm actually a better athlete and can keep up because of some of the new movements. Like, to be honest with you, the cancel is like the best thing since sliced bread, yo. Yeah. And I can train and keep up with my athletes literally because I can lift up and cancel and like catch my breath in a lot of areas. Yeah. And then if I'm even more honest, my martial art ability is better because me personally, like people talk about Taekwondo, you know, how it doesn't translate and whatnot. Me personally, as just a bare bones minimum martial artist at heart, I think about application so much about what I can do, how my Taekwondo can translate into a self-defense situation, and that I'm actually able to use like once the advent and cut kick. Like I'm kind of ashamed to say that even as old as I am now, I'm not that old, people, you know, I'm in my 30s, but that I've had fights since the advent of the cut kick that I had to use like in real life. Yeah. Nobody can get close to me, yo. Yeah. Like people, like untrained people who don't know how to catch a leg and do like a single leg takedown or something like that. You just can't get in. Yeah. Like, and then the cut flip. Yo, I've cut flipped so many regular people, yo. Like,
now the context of this, you travel a lot with the Army because you're in the National Guard. So, some of these guys that you
Army people play a lot.
Yeah. Some of these guys they mean you harm. Like, it's Army people, but they mean you harm them.
Right. Exactly.
They want to.
These people play a lot. They've been drinking. They want to hurt you. I'm at a bar or something. Right. Yeah. So I'm in a.
So it's a real fight in one way. It's not necessarily like a
death,
life or
to
death.
The death. Yeah.
It's not like a life or death, asocial violence, but it is social violence. Most violence is social violence.
Well, if I'm honest, it was just like it's a me or them thing. It's not that I'm going to die, but it's like. But I could be hit and injured and black-eyed.
I'm not going to let you injure me.
Yeah, my jaw dislocated. Like, you're not going to get me. Yeah. So I'm going to do what I know how to do. Yeah. And I spar, you know, Olympic-style Taekwondo so much that I have I have developed a way personally. To tell you the truth, I probably should put it out in a way that's like
you should.
palatable for
how to apply
regular.
it.
How to apply
like
it. You know, I thought about that, but I've actually used it in a way that's the distance management. Push out with the cut kick. You used to
teach out of like East Coast Fighter, and you used to spar with Muay Thai people.
Like
they have a great Muay Thai program.
To tell you the truth, I would say it's definitely the best in like the Carolinas because they clean up like wherever they go. Yeah. Right. And then I'll also say it also is a top level Muay Thai gym, Brazilian top. Top team. Yeah. They're literally endorsed by them. Mm-hmm. So for them to be endorsed by them, which is an MMA team, mm-hmm. right? They literally have to be one of the best on this coast in the nation. So I'll give them, as far as Muay Thai, because American Muay Thai is so watered down, And this guy actually learned in Thailand. Yeah. And he brought it back here, although he's not Thai. He teaches, to those same type principles, and it's mm-hmm. really, really, really good stuff. But when I tell you that his fighters that he has there, and some of them that were in his fight camp, that are in his fight camp, mm-hmm. and then the ones obviously that I fought that was on sparring days that weren't in his fight camps and stuff, I was doing damage. Yeah. I was doing damage and I was not punching
This isn't the only time. I know that you've done that. And then I talked to a guy named...
That's why I kind of like you, because you actually know my history. You've seen me like move and stuff. So you know these things. But man, I don't have video footage or anything of this stuff. Like people...
You still have video footage of that Kung Fu guy.
That's one thing.
That you wasted. But that guy has no training.
Yeah, that guy has one thing.
But I talked to a guy named Daniel Marino, and he's a Tang Sudo guy. And he does a lot of the front leg mm-hmm. stuff, but he does nothing near the cut kick. But he trains with Muay Thai kids. These are good amateur fighters, and he says he does really well because they don't know how to deal with the front leg.
They don't know how to deal with it, bro. They really don't. And what they also don't know how to deal with, and especially if you are a Taekwondo athlete that can put like power and speed like behind mm-hmm. like what you're doing, like because on those sparring nights, like we only have on gloves. Yeah. Right. So we only have on like boxing gloves, and I personally come from an old school era of training and everything to where I don't even wear shin pads and stuff a lot of times when I'm sparring. Yeah. So these people have on shin pads. Some will do, some will don't. I don't have on anything but gloves, and it's really to kind of protect the other person because I get a lot of like punches and hits off because mm-hmm. I do still kind of spar with my hands relatively low. So people do not expect me just to jab out of nowhere from all the way down here. Yeah. But and then when I do, and that's just because I time it well.
Which is a strategy that a lot of
it's a strategy.
Use. Silva used it. 100%. McGregor's used it, and people still talk like Taekwondo.
Yeah, but people talk about like how you can't keep your hands up. I hit so many people with my fists with my hands down because of the tactics and strategies that I use to set up my hands. One, it being low in itself is a setup, right? Yeah. And then being able to draft it up. But when at the time, like I literally do it when their hands are dropping because they're comfortable. Like if I fought like this and I was close in range, most Muay Thai people, like their hands are up high and they're like shelling and they come in and try to stalk you, whatever case may be. But I drop my hands, I give them that distance, and I'm really good about like I don't want to call it lunge because that's not what it is, but I have this thing when I can kind of like hop in and hit you with the front hand, and I do that not when you're relaxed because you can put your hands up real fast, but when I really literally see your I blitz it. And boom, I get the hit off. And then obviously, you're doing like a continuous sport. I'm combinating off of that. And then even in Muay Thai, you can get the trip and put them down on the ground. Yeah. And then you get the referee, to stand them back up, right? Yeah. So I think about the application of Taekwondo, but the only reason why I'm able to do that, I feel, in my realm is because of and I'm not saying other high-level Taekwondo athletes can't do this because I'm more than confident about the transferability of the type of skills as far as especially perception, distance, timing that you can move over into something like kickboxing or Taekwondo, but kickboxing or Muay Thai. But Muay Thai and kickboxing people cannot transfer to Taekwondo and be remotely as good as they were. And I'm talking about like championship level people.
Silva tried. Everyone thinks that Anderson Silva is blindingly fast. But when Anderson Silva tried to do Taekwondo, he looked so slow, so clunky. He washed out. He couldn't do it.
So bad.
He couldn't do it. Now, it's not to say he's a bad fighter or that he needed Taekwondo.
No, there's nobody.
He has his style, right?
Yo, nobody is contesting the skill level, especially in MMA of Anderson Silva, right? Yeah. But an amateur or basic level Taekwondo athlete would mop the floor with Anderson Silva. I'm talking about let's just say a state championship person
in Taekwondo.
In Taekwondo,
not in MMA, but in
Taekwondo specifically. He get wiped by the most amateur level of athletes because the tactics and stuff are different.
Yeah,
but that being said, MMA distance and time management and ring management and things is not transferable to Taekwondo, but Taekwondo ring management, distance, and time is transferable to MMA.
Right.
And that's one reason why, to be I'm such a proponent of Taekwondo, because I've seen it time and time again. I've had people come in my school and challenge me in my gym with my students and challenge me to, the Taekwondo fight, and then literally so bold to say, hey, we can even do it under your rules. Yo, no, we can't.
No, you are disadvantaged.
No, we can't. And I'm always the type of person to be like, no, we can fight under your rules, though.
It's like McGregor thinking he's going to go against Floyd in boxing, right? We all knew what was going to happen.
No, we don't. And I'm going to tell you why we don't, because Floyd just did another fight with Logan Paul, right?
Oh, my gosh.
Mop the floor with the dude. And he's afterwards talking about, oh, I can't believe I was in there for 9, rounds with Floyd Mayweather, and I actually survived. He's as tough as I thought he was. He's 40-something.
Yeah.
He's 40-something, and there's definitely a diminishing effect that happens degeneratively.
Yeah, but this is a few years ago, though, that McGregor did this. But what if McGregor tried to get in the ring with a younger boxer?
So the reason why I say that people do not know is because these fights that people are watching and paying for, if you knew people knew, they would not be making, when I say $400 million and upwards, on these fights, they would not be making that. Like, if you knew what I'll buy a UFC fight in a heartbeat because it's more evenly matched.
Yeah.
As much as I actually love Floyd Mayweather and seeing him move and stuff, you think I purchased his fights? Of the exhibition he did? No. I sure didn't. And you know me. I will drop some money in a heartbeat to watch like a pay-per-view boxing match or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Like we've done it.
Yeah.
You've been over. Yeah. Right? But I do not purchase these fights because I know what I know about somebody who does not train even remotely in that realm, or really has the credibility of the longevity or ring IQ as a boxer to even be in the ring with somebody like Floyd Mayweather. It is not worth my time and money. It's literally a waste of time and money.
You know the ignorance when people say, man, Logan's pretty good, dude. He's been putting in the work.
That's when I walk away.
It's a fundamental lack of respect. It's disrespect for the
really
domain.
Is disrespectful to
for the domain of knowledge. It's disrespectful to boxing.
It's actually really disrespectful.
It's fundamentally disrespectful to Taekwondo when people say these things about thinking that they can just run into a Taekwondo rule set and smoke Taekwondo people. No, you can't.
Or you spar at your local dojo or whatever it is that you spar or do Taekwondo at and learn Olympic style. I have learned it. I've done it before. And then you actually think that you could hang with anybody that you have actually seen on some type of YouTube video with Taekwondo, you can't hang with.
Yeah.
Like if you were just a local person. And when I'm talking about like anybody, I'm also talking about like that 17-year-old girl from Serbia.
Yeah. Now you can't even hang with the girls.
Like that girl will mop you.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Sorry, dudes.
Like that 17-year-old female sparring under Taekwondo rules, and you think you're doing something that she will mop you.
Yeah.
I'm talking, and to be honest with you, if I'm really talking about one of the only sports that is really leveling like that, right? Taekwondo is one of the only sports, right, where a freaking female from somebody who's a dude who has practiced and trained in sport will still mop you, yo. Like, let's just be real. Like, I think about how one day, and Serena Williams got this story, and I like to use it a lot when I'm talking about how, you know, women talk about how they can, you know, hang in men's sports and they should be allowed in men's sports and there's no reason why there should be a divide and blah, 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 blah. I like to use this story with Serena Williams about how she tells a story about how she and her sister Venus cockily, how would you say it? Like, you know, boisterously walked into a local tennis club gym thing where they were at the time, you know, in one of the states they were at the time, you know, visiting, you know, because high-level athletes really keep up with their shit. Like, they go on vacation and they got like a whole team behind them to keep up with like their tennis, because your cardio really does like diminish immediately, with stuff like that. So, but anyway, really so they walk into this like local like tennis club and they are like at the height of their game at the time. Venus and Serena Williams. And Venus is probably arguably way better now than she was then at the time. But anyway, she walks in and she's like, hey, you have anybody here for us to play? We'll play anybody here, man or female, and we'll dominate. So there's this 200th ranked at the time male tennis player that's there to actually like just overheard her. Like, he's literally like sipping his coffee with a piece of paper. He puts the magazine down. He's like, "Hey, I'll train you." And this is a real story, people. Like, I'm not making this up. The 200th ranked tennis player mops Serena and Venus Williams one after the other. Like, literally played one in a single tennis match, plays the other one, and then mops that one.
And then smoked a pack of cigarettes in between.
Right. but Taekwondo is actually more leveling than that fact. Like, that 17-year girl is not beating Husseini or nothing like that, right? But there's no way to find out like who the 200th ranked person in Taekwondo is, right? Yeah. But I would imagine somebody that low on the totem pole is probably like your state championships, or maybe he goes to nationals and could get like bronze or something like that, right? Yeah. Say you're that guy in Taekwondo here in America, right? Yeah. Say you went as far as got bronze medal at a national, you know, level tournament, AAU or something like that. That girl from Serbia will mop you. Taekwondo is leveling like that. Like, it is humbling in a way.
Not just because she has the better tactical knowledge, and there's an effect kind of like this in jiu-jitsu if there's enough of a skill differential, right? You can't just... Wrestlers sometimes think they're going to come into jiu-jitsu and...
do good.
And just
like
do good.
Mop up. Like,
and they don't usually, you know...
Well, you can't. It's tactically different. Like, wrestling is about having domination over somebody, whereas they don't learn submissions. They don't even learn the submission.
They do the thing where they will rather give you your back than be pinned.
Right, yeah.
Which is the worst position to be in jiu-jitsu. And I experienced this when we had some new white belt young blood come in. They were all wrestlers.
Just one side note, because I know you will appreciate this.
Yeah.
Before I forget, I was watching this jiu-jitsu match the other day when this dude, and I don't actually know what the move is called, but he got this dude in a rear naked choke, right? So he has a dude in a rear naked choke. He's going for a rear naked choke, and it actually looks like it's kind of retched in, right? Like it's kind of sunk in. But the dude on the bottom, wrapped his hands, his feet around the body, he's locking it, and the dude puts his legs up around his feet and does something to where the dude in the rear naked choke, whose feet is in between his like little...
Yeah, he crossed his legs. Yeah.
Yo, it has to be some type of leg lock
to a friend.
Or something.
It is. So
yo, this dude has a rear naked choke etched in, and he taps. Yeah. Yo, that was beautiful, yo.
I saw
and the guy got up and started running around going bananas.
Yeah.
Like, that was beautiful stuff.
It's in competition, anything goes. In the club, it's considered a dick move because it can break your ankle really fast.
Anything.
But that's why in jiu-jitsu, the first thing they tell you, don't cross your ankles.
Yeah, or put your hand on the ground.
You can't. It feels more secure to cross your ankles, but you're at danger because some dick will do that.
Yeah, but even if you don't cross your angles, but you try to put in like, I've literally been taught, and depending on how much the person knows, it could be a detriment or not. I've literally been taught in my jiu-jitsu classes that you put the hook into the leg,
the leg as much as you can go.
Right. So if you put your hook into the leg as much as you can go, and then that person who clamps their legs and locks it in and gets you like defeated.
They can do that too. Yeah.
Right, but so me, it's like anything I do with martial arts is always about the fundamental self-defense aspect of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know in, jiu-jitsu clubs and stuff, like small joint anything is like a dick move.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like anybody can grab your finger and bend it back and you tap, right?
Yeah.
I get that. But at the same time, I ain't doing this for that. I'm not doing this for nada. I'm trying to figure out ways in which, especially with somebody who knows, like it's extremely difficult to do this with somebody who knows anything about jiu-jitsu, just because like the way your hands are positioned and like you do stuff, like somebody just can't get you that easily with something like that. Maybe like a toe, because people do like reverse and circle around and get the foot and stuff a lot.
If you can isolate the wrist, you can. The finger bending thing is harder than it looks, especially when you're warmed up.
That's my point. Well, that's anything.
But it is possible. Artists. It is possible to do.
Well, you're a martial artist.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've heard like, "Hey, Josh, I know you know all that kung fu hooey crap. I'm just gonna poke you in the eye."
Oh yeah.
Okay, we'll try
that old thing. Yeah. I know martial arts and I can poke you in the eye.
Right. Like I can do both, right? Like,
and you told me you're gonna do it.
I remember this one dude. He was like, "Man, Husky is another military dude, man. I got so many stories about this. Hey, Husky, I know you. You know that Hong Kong, foodie stuff and Kung Fu Joe, and all I gotta do is look how small you are." And at the time, like I was like 145 pounds soaking wet, but I was still good, yo. Like I could take I've brought down Willie Mammoth. Like everybody always give you the larger than life story, but I've literally fought guys who were taller, but more in particular, way stronger than I was, but they just couldn't freaking catch me. Mm-hmm. Like I was fast. Like they would try to like get a hand on me to slam me and put me on the ground, but before they could, I done pieced them up with the front leg, right? Mm-hmm. I done freaking hop back and tagged them with the freaking like reverse crawl. Yeah. I call it reverse cross because when you step into it, it's kind of really a jab at that point, but you get it. But anyway, I tagged them with reverse cross. So, what are y'all people talking about? All I gotta do is put my hands to you. I'll just poke your eye. I'll just hit you in the throat.
Yep.
No, you're not.
No.
Nope. No, you're not. No, you're not just gonna grab my finger and do something easy like bend it back and break it and just make me cry like a baby.
I had a 16-year-old kid. Sometimes when you're doing like the more submission wrestling aspect of jiu-jitsu, you'll end up clasping hands like this. And we got in this position, and I'm not going super, but he thinks, oh, I got his hand, so I'm gonna bend his wrist back. So he tried to do that. And I'm not that strong, but I'm a grown man.
Sure. Right.
It didn't work. It didn't work. Sure. He got it to stretch a little bit. There's a little bit of discomfort. I repositioned and I turned it back.
Right.
And then I went and did an arm drag and put him on his ass. So people think they're going to get that stuff and they feel like it's going to do it.
No.
And then all of a sudden the reg comes out from underneath them. And it doesn't work. Which is a good segue into the last part, and that is, where is this criticism of, I did Taekwondo, it's foot fencing, it's tappy, where does it come from? It comes from people who do an entirely different style of Taekwondo, point style that I used to do when I was coming up in the rings.
I used to do point style.
That probably most people used to do when they did Taekwondo.
Well,
where you're not allowed to make. Yeah, you didn't. Where you're not allowed to make that sort of contact, and it really is flippy. And they think that transfers to what's happening in an Olympic thing. And it's not.
So it's funny you mentioned, I went to this tournament one time, and like if you ever fought like at a tournament like in abundance and even high level, like you don't show up at 8 o'clock when the tournament doors open. Like, especially like when, you know, I was an adult at the time and I'm fighting later on in the day. I know I'm fighting in the day. I literally didn't come to registration till like 12 o'clock. Yeah. Like, why am I sitting there from 8 o'clock in the morning all the way to, you know, whatever time, you know, to spar? And a lot of times when I was doing point karate matches and stuff, I was quite literally the last tournament of the day. So it's like I'm the last person that everybody like they're literally pulling up mats in the ring next to me. Like that last tournament of the day.
Nobody
you know,
cares
like
about
people,
adults and
like people are ready to go and whatnot. I will say that we had some spectators because in point karate matches, if you win your division, which I usually always did, if you win your division, you go to what's called like the Black Belt Grand Championships, where you fight everybody else who got first place in their division. So I would, with my division, I would make it to the Black Belt Grand Championships. But I say this to say, I remember this time when I walked in, you know, happened to walk in, you know, for my registration and stuff. It's like 1 o'clock, you know, because I know I'm not, you know, I hadn't, you know, received the fight yet to be disqualified for not being there. And I'm literally listening to the tournament promoter as I'm doing stuff, waiting to get my wristbands and stuff. And this dude says, hey, if you, one thing I want to say, if you see anybody throw a right hook, they are disqualified. Like, and I'm like, okay. I literally was like, I'm gonna throw a right hook today. Like, I'm thinking to myself, like, no, I'm gonna throw a right hook today. Like, it used to be one of my things, particularly in point karate tournaments, when they would come in with the blitz like this, because they would like bounce and they'll do this like thing. I would literally sidestep, take my right hand and whack the dog out of them. Yeah. Like, I would like. That's quite literally what it's sometimes, depending on how fast the person was or whatever, or if I wanted to deflect the hands in order to give myself more times to right hook, I would use my left hand to like do like wash the window down your son. Like, I would literally move their blitz out the way, right? And take my right hand and literally right hook them right on the side of the head, yo. Yeah.
So and to put a rule in place
and I'm thinking,
take that away from you.
And I'm trying to relate that to what you were saying about how when people are talking about how things stem from, oh, I've done it, you know, or like you're talking about point karate. Like, point karate is so light contact, bro. Yeah. Like point karate was never on the level of like
it's actually impossible to do the cut kicking game of Taekwondo in karate because of that.
Well, I have this theory.
I mean, there's some things you could do, but you have to be really, really careful.
I actually want to get back into sparring, but I don't want to do like 2 and 3 a days that I used to do. Yeah. Like when I was like, you know, at the height of my game. Yeah. And because I don't want to train like that, and point karate is so much easier. Yeah, I'm sorry, it just is, bro. I kind of want to like get back into doing tournaments, and I have this theory that I think I would mop up my division because of the cut kick.
You would be scoring on people because your cut kick is so freaking good, and your movement. Karate guys like don't understand. Sport karate guys don't understand how good the movement is in
Taekwondo versus
Taekwondo. Even something else like boxing is really good.
If I'm honest, WKF distance management is good, but the only reason why it's good is because the distance that they have between the competitors, even in actual tournament. Remember me and you were talking about a perception and action episode that we were talking about with you know, Dr. Rob Gray about how he was talking about the distance between Taekwondo fighters like in a fight and how there's like an 8mm distance or whatever distance, but between the like WKF is even so much further than that. Right. So it's like you see a lot of like just sitting around and people straight up missing because of that distance. Taekwondo people fight so much closer than that. Yeah. So you really have to be so quick to read a cancel, yo. It's so quick to put your hand in the position and on the block.
It forces you to have better perceptual motor skills.
I can't explain it like that to these people because they don't know that.
They don't know They don't know what we know, Thomas. They don't know what they don't know.
I'm trying to be so basic about it because, again, the reason why we're doing this podcast is because of just things we've been seeing online or on forums, and people do not like, and they feel intimidated, I think, and upset or mad, or to like they think we're trying to be know-it-alls. To be honest with you, I'm really not trying to be a know-it-all.
Yeah.
What I really am trying to do is elevate the game, in particularly of coaching, right? But elevate the game of the knowledge of Taekwondo so that there is actually a wider, bigger spread and pool of competent coaches and athletes. Mm-hmm. That's really what I'm trying to do. Yeah. And the reason why I'm trying to do that is because I grew up in a rural area where I thought I was the man in Taekwondo till I went to like a heavy hitting state and like got mopped. And when I say mopped, I'm talking like 0 to 15 in early Taekwondo. Yeah. Like when it wasn't a high scoring game by people just because I went to another state. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I'm trying to, do stuff like this and hoping that it reaches to Joe Schmo's karate or whatever. Since this is kind of like an umbrella, podcast that you have about, combat arts and sports, to Joe Schmo Karate and really think about gross motor skills and learning and things of that nature, really to elevate the ability of the students. Like, think about how the quality of jiu-jitsu black belts are, regardless of whether they get instruction at. They're predominantly, they're pretty good. Yeah. Like if they're black belt, blue belt, like they're all roughly the same. They're pretty good. Man, you got so many garbage black belts in Taekwondo. Like it doesn't make sense. Yeah. What if Taekwondo was elevated somehow in a way to where it was somebody got a black belt in Taekwondo? And to be honest with you, a lot of people in the middle. First of all, martial arts has shifted to this thing of like family fun and fitness. Although Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is like still is nothing to play with. All these other little karate and Taekwondo schools, family fun and fitness, it caters to the kids. They're giving people black belts at 8, 9 years old, blah, 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 blah. What if Taekwondo shifted because the level of coaching and stuff was so high to where, and even instruction, like okay, you don't have an Olympic like Taekwondo school, but you know about fine and gross motor skills and things and finding gross motor skills and coaching and perception and how to build, a student or athlete to be decent and competent, regardless of whether they want to be an Olympic athlete or not. Just think about what Taekwondo would be. Or think about what karate would be.
Karate, yeah.
Or sure. Krav Maga.
Krav Maga.
Okay, maybe not Krav. We hate Krav, y'all. But maybe not Krav.
Well, you said that if you have normal, unimpaired cognitive faculties that you can do this. This Krav Maga is accepted on that fact.
But that's because people are culted and brainwashed when it comes to Krav Maga. They think hitting the balls or practicing to hit the balls.
Krav Maga is the CrossFit of martial arts.
It really is.
And it is LARPing.
Like, to be honest with you, people bag on karate at the Y, karate at the Y.
Krav Maga
is worse.
It's worse.
It's worse than karate.
They take off the gi, but still do the one steps.
Let's cut it.
That's Krav Maga.
Next episode.
Yeah. I think we've covered. I think we
did a bit good job. There's some stuff that I wanted to kind of hit and whatnot. Do you do a formal bye? Do I need to say, peace out, people, and
I don't really do a
happy hunting bye. And read or.
I'll ask you where they can find you. Probably like 2 people are going to listen this far into the podcast.
Well, that's probably true. But if you do, and you actually break it up and actually, do something creative, as far as break up, because I actually think some stuff that we talked about, like at the end or even now, could be put like in the middle or whatever. But Coach Thomas Huskey or Coach Huskey on Instagram, the Taekwondo Lab on all platforms. Really, the Taekwondo Lab is my Taekwondo stuff. So if you are a grassroots level competitor that is really trying to elevate your game of Taekwondo and you really don't understand the intricacies that you want to understand just because you don't have a coach, and to be honest with you, I've been there, done that. I didn't have somebody who was competent enough to teach me, so I had to move on, to something else who could teach me the intricacies of Taekwondo, and you want to learn that those intricacies that I'm talking about. Like, the Taekwondo Lab is on YouTube, on all platforms again, and it's everywhere. Like YouTube didn't exist when I was trying to consume the intricacies of Taekwondo. Like I had to travel for it. And it's right at your fingertips. It's something that you can literally, as a Taekwondo student, take back to your school right after viewing it and apply and try to do it immediately. And I try to break it down in a way in which is palatable for everybody. You don't got to be, again, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. So when I made it, it was to make sure somebody like me who takes a couple times to get things could understand what's going on in the video, right? And they're bite-sized, so nothing is more than 6-7 minutes long. You can watch it and go on about your day and try to apply it later on. Coach Huskey, Thomas Huskey, Taekwondo Lab, all our platforms.
All right.
Thanks so much for listening to the Combat Learning Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. It really helps us out. Finally, this episode, including the intro music, is produced by Micah Peacock. Thanks in advance, and I'll see you on the next episode.